and welcome to our Sequester Season 4 recap coverage. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I am here today with Chantele. How you doing, Chantele?
I'm doing great, and I wanted to know if you thought that I look good in denim.
You look great in denim.
Thank you.
I'm glad Matt didn't wear denim. It would have been awkward. I would have known that you two were teaming up against me.
But yes, I'm doing great. Thank you, Taran.
All right. Yes. Also with us is Matt. How you doing, Matt?
I'm good. But wait, you might need to close. I don't think the audience should be here yet. We still need to finish this conversation. Shut them out. Close the door. Get them out of here. No, good. Very good. Very excited to talk about this episode, about this season. It's been good so far, obviously. So I'm excited.
Yeah, hold on. I think I can. Oh, no, wrong one. I just got rid of Matt, so he's just gonna go. Chantele, I really needed to talk to you. Actually,
okay.
I'm proposing a marriage of necessity. That without me, this podcast cannot go on.
Okay.
Yes.
I guess we'll do it.
We're here to talk about episode 2 of Sequester season 4, and oh boy, what an episode for my previous co-host, Brent Walkman.
Your previous co-host. Is he invited back next season, or does he have to win? Does he have to play?
I think he has to win. I think I think those were the rules that we set up in place. Yeah.
Yeah. Putting it all on the line there. Obviously it's there's a lot going on. Sequester has been great with all of these live versions of the show lately, but having this extra added element for us of seeing Brent in the game is obviously making this season such a different experience. And he is bringing the entertainment. He is bringing the drama. He is bringing the gameplay in his own unique way.
I've been loving watching Brent, but yeah, I can understand where you're just kind of like, what's happening here? All right, is this going to work? Is this going to work for you? I hope so.
Yeah, Brent so far has been an interesting character because he's like the Devin from Big Brother 16, where he's just very over the top, but he's actually very strategic in the way that he goes about it. Like, he's not running around saying I have a daughter, let's align. He's running around holding people's hands and saying align or I will take you out. And that's how it's gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get to it later, but just as intense as you would have expected Brent to be playing a game like this. I know he credits you a little bit, or a lot of it maybe, for the fact that he was there in the first place. I actually had a conversation with him about a week ago where he was saying that I was somebody who had said he shouldn't do something like this at all. And I was like, I mean, I'm sure I said that. I don't remember saying that, but I'm sure that's something that I would have said, because knowing him going into a game like this, I was like, this is exactly what I would have thought would happen. But he made it past round 1. He made it past round 2, and I am glad he said yes. So it's been fun.
See, this is just a difference between us, Matt. Is that
I know? I was like, thank God for Taran, because obviously you had a good time. He's raving about the experience and all this stuff.
If you just don't like good TV enough.
I don't know. I like good TV. I didn't know what to say. And I didn't know it was a real possibility. Obviously, he didn't say I'm seriously in consideration. If we had a conversation about it, it must have been, So hypothetically, if I ever had the opportunity, what do you think? And I was probably like, yeah, no.
So interesting. I would always say yes. It's such an experience just to be in these live reality games. It's visceral. It doesn't really translate on TV, the feeling of being in these games. And so I would say experientially, I think yes, 100% for anybody to give it a go.
Yeah. All right. Well, we get into the episode. A recap of what happened before. It was a little lengthy, but we got some different perspectives from it, which I do enjoy. So that it's when you're getting the recap of what happened, we're getting confessionals from Muna and other people who we didn't have these confessionals before, getting Muna's reaction to when Jay West is called out and all of that. That was pretty fun. But we head into the episode, and we've gone overnight. It's a new day, and they're waiting to see who is going to return from the battle match. Or I think we actually saw Josh go into the sanctum of
Luxury row?
Whatever.
Yeah.
So this is the new twist for the LOSs, is that instead of being hidden around the house, the winner of the battle match is going to be sent to Ghost Island, aka Luxury Row or whatever, and then choose between 3 boxes. In 2 of those boxes is an LOS. In 1 of those boxes is, I guess, a lump of coal.
Yeah, nothing's in one of those boxes.
I wanted to find out. I didn't want to find out because I didn't want Josh to have gotten that. You wanted him to get the LOS right off the bat, but it would have been interesting to see, what would have been inside. It would have just maybe said like loser or something on the page if he didn't get it.
Or just an empty box.
Yeah.
So I will say right off the bat, for me, I like this a little bit. I think I don't love. We talked about this last week with Rob, and Rob was like, yeah, she took out something that nobody likes doing, or nobody likes watching, which is watching people look for stuff. Like, I like that. I don't need to see LOS hunts. And I also like what it does to the balance of the game to some degree, where in season 3, one of the things that we criticized of the show is that there were stretches of time in the season where the whole house was trying to get one person out of the game, and that person kept winning battle match after battle match. And so every episode was like, take out this person, redux. And it was just over and over. But if by winning a battle match, you have a good chance of winning an LOS, then you are going to be able to come back with a little bit of power and possibly prevent people from coming after you 2 weeks in a row. And I think in general, it's just also giving power to people that should probably be getting power the most. They're the people who are at the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah.
Do you think that they'll be able to get multiple LOSs if they don't use it per se? I guess they would use it, if they had to go and...
Yeah, I mean, I guess if they get blindsided and don't use their LOS and then win another battle match, then now they have 2 LOSs with a lot of incentive to use them this time.
But they technically went out of the game with an LOS in their pocket. I would think that might be deactivated.
Oh,
well, but they didn't go out of the game if they win the battle match.
True,
I don't think you're
but
ever
if they got
technically
voted
out of the game.
Maybe, yeah. I guess that's a technical thing.
Yeah, I think you're only out as when you lose the battle match.
Makes sense.
Or as they call it in the game, the battle back.
The battle, battle something.
How come the players in the game are getting the terminology worse than I am?
Like, I mean, we watch a lot of reality TV. There's a lot of different names for the battle something.
but isn't there going to be a battle back for the people that are currently in the jury, or is it done? I can't remember what she said.
I mean,
they seem to think there is.
I don't know that we've had confirmation, but both Jay West and Katie were speaking like, yeah, there's gonna be a chance. So yeah, and there always has been in Sequester, so I would imagine that there will be, especially because we have 13 players instead of 20, so there's even more incentive to do that. But I don't think we know for sure or in what sort of context it will be.
Yeah, as far as this room goes and the twist and all that, I have to shout out to Josh because the bubblegum in a dish reference was great. I don't know if everybody has spent their childhood playing that with everybody on the playground or on the bus, but I appreciated having that brought back into my 2020 world here. And then, the twist itself to have the LOSs there, it was, it definitely more compelling to have this like game of chance and just this like there is a 1 in 3 chance that they're not going to get an LOS. They're going to go back into the game with nothing. So, just to have that suspense. And then it's like also adding to the fact, it kind of reminded me of something they did on the challenge a couple seasons ago, where if you won an elimination, you were safe from the next elimination. You couldn't go in. So while this isn't exactly that, it's like if you are a target, if Katie had gotten back into the house after this battle whatever, might have still been a target going into the next round. Having that LOS in her pocket would have been huge. So, it's of course not the exact same thing, but I like the element of having safety given to the person who is now coming back in.
Yeah,
and there's also like the ability to gain bonds with the other people that may have at least know your secret with having that LOS. And so potentially, an uprising of the voted out might occur with like them having a little bit more power and people not knowing about it. So keeping that a secret is probably going to be really important. I hope they do that.
Yeah, I think it's really worked out too that both of the people that were voted out ended up winning their battle matches to kind of help keep in the game these people that were kind of on the outs, and they now will come back into the game with potentially some power if Natalie also is going to end up choosing the LOS. Is bubblegum in a dish? Is that like eeny meeny miny mo?
No.
That's what I thought. I was eating meeny
Have
miny
you both
mo.
not played this?
No, I didn't even remember what you were talking about. I'm sorry.
It's just,
but now I know what you mean.
It's a fun like elimination game that you play. We always played it on the bus at Cam. So everybody puts out 2 hands, everybody in the circle, and you go bubblegum in a dish. And sometimes you would like use your chin. I don't know if you were like the person doing it. How many pieces do you wish? Whoever it landed on, if I landed on myself, I could say 7, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You land on somebody's fist, they take a fist out, and now they only have 1. And you keep going around until there's only 2 people left, and whoever is the last person left with fists in the game is the winner. So it's not an eeny meeny miny mo, but it's still a great time.
That sounds like a Sequester game. It sounds like the Battleback challenge.
Season 5, let's do it.
What I didn't get is that he did his whole bubblegum thing. He ended on one of the boxes, and then afterward he went 1, 2, 3.
Oh, because
but there are 3 boxes.
He picked the number, so that's what I'm saying. So whoever you land on at the end
1,
of
2, 3,
how many pieces do you wish, the person picks a number, and then you go 1, 2. So he picked the number 1, 2, 3.
I mean, couldn't he have just picked that box if he wanted that box?
He could have, but that's not as entertaining or as nostalgic.
or as following through with the rules of this game. So he had to pick a number, and yes,
I guess
3
so. I mean, at
was
least he didn't pick 6. I guess that would have been even worse.
I'm seeing people in the chat saying it might be a New York thing. So sorry if I'm just, or at least you're welcome for explaining it to anybody who maybe isn't familiar.
It's clearly also a kids that played games on the bus thing.
That too.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Not me.
Well, never mind. You had to be there.
Yeah. So Josh is going to win in LOS here. And again, I don't mind bits of randomness thrown into the game. I've always said that with Survivor, with Big Brother. 66% chance of getting an LOS, I think it's pretty good. Pretty good for where this is at, which means you would expect with potentially 10 to 11 or even maybe 12 battle matches total, depending on if there's a battle back. We will see roughly 2/3 of that, so maybe 8-ish LOSs introduced into the game total. I think that's not too bad, especially if they're given to people who again are struggling to survive in the game. So I'm excited to see how this plays out and see how it works out. I also liked, this idea of, yes, they now share a secret, as one of the 2 of you mentioned, I think just a second ago. I think it was Chantele. And so, knowing now that at the end of this episode, Natalie is going to end up going into the sanctorium of Sanctuary, that she is going to potentially win an LOS. Either way, she's going to be able to go to Josh and be like, hey, did this happen to you too? And that's a shared secret. It helps bond these people together, which is probably pretty necessary given that, again, they're on the outs. So that's interesting as well, this sort of secret thing. And like, when is this going to eventually be exposed to the group at large that winning a battle match gives you a 66% chance at an LOS, because that will also impact, I think, voting strategies and who goes into battle matches and such. So there's a lot of ways where this can be, I think, interesting for the game.
I feel like at some point it would be cool if she took away a box and made it a 50% chance rather than a 66% chance of getting it.
So awful.
Make the odds a little bit tougher as you get maybe a couple rounds in.
I would agree. Yeah, I think making the odds worse would be good toward the end of the game, especially because LOSs are going to get more and more valuable.
When the stakes are so high and it's like now you only have 2 boxes. You have a 50-50 shot. You get it or you don't. So I don't know. Would be something to consider.
So Rico in the chat says that they said 2 boxes have power, so not necessarily LOSs. I guess is the implication. I assumed they were just LOSs, but
because 2 LOSs would be underwhelming. Just like, oh, you get an LOS or an LOS. I thought they said power because then it could be anything. It could be like a vote canceller. It could be any kind of normal twist that we've seen before. Kind of, I don't know. That would be a lot of fun to see if Natalie ends up getting something like that.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see if there are other kinds of powers involved. I don't know. I guess I would have to wait and see what the power was. I think adding things that are like steal a vote is going to be a weird power in a game like Sequester, where every round votes are so vastly different. Like steal a vote in like a vote for even round vote or even vote count round. I don't know what they call it. Like that power changes depending on the round, and it's gonna be more or less powerful, which I guess is interesting in the sense that like, oh, they now have to choose when to use it and the right time to use it, but I think it may get a little complicated if we
the
start
game
going.
definitely doesn't have enough going on right now to start mixing that in.
So we start the day here. We've skipped through the night, and this is we sort of learn that and this has been said after the fact that basically once the battle match happens, everyone is tucked away and sequestered away, and they're all like they're not allowed to talk. I don't know, maybe they're like in a room by themselves. I don't know the exact mechanism here, but the first time they get to interact is the next day, where Josh is going to be running out of those barn doors, feeling invincible or whatever, and this is I think contributes to Brent's intensity in just a second. But this is actually kind of an important part of the game that, basically Brent just, exposed that he betrayed Katie and never had a chance to explain himself all night long, into the morning, into the next day. As far as she knows, like what he said was true, and that he was like, yeah, I actually wanted you to stay, Josh, and it had nothing to do with wanting to be dragged.
And I absolutely love that. Like the fact that they're not able to talk in the middle. It's why Survivor obviously does that. You can't talk in between going to tribal council and going to camp, between challenges and camp. On a show like Big Brother, I mean, yeah, it's on feed, so sometimes you'll get to see it the next day, not always guaranteed. But when you tell them that you cannot talk, like you cannot interact and keep it strict, like lock that down, make sure the cameras are on. If they had those conversations late at night and had some pillow talk trying to smooth things over, the cameras are not going to be rolling because production has to go to bed too. So I don't know if that's always been a thing. If it has, I'm not sure, but it's definitely a good call because like you said, we're going to get the explosiveness right off the bat once the ban is lifted and they can go talk to each other.
Yes. And so we're introduced to the twist of this round, which is the detective killer. I don't remember the name of it exactly, but there's a detective and there's a killer. So I've seen this play out in the mini games before, and I actually feel like it's a little better in the live format, but it was still a little bit sort of like there's a lot of information that they throw at you at first, and the previous episode was like very straightforward, very easy to follow. This was a little more like Sequester of the past, where it's like, oh, all right, I'm just gonna have to kind of ride with this and hope I get it. And I do feel like over the course of the episode, I got it.
Well, that's the same with me. I rewound the instructions again because I'm like, I feel like this isn't, it's simple, but then there's something that's still a little bit complicated about it that I'm kind of like, I don't know if I fully got it because it didn't play out the other way around. But yes, I did have the exact same feeling as you. It's like, I think I get it, but I'm not fully sure.
And it's like, of course, a lot of people compare some Sequester rounds to like Genius style gameplay, which for sure is something that you can draw a comparison to. And it's similar to the Genius. I mean, like there are people who watch the Genius and are able to like specifically identify the strategy for each round and, break it down and the optimal move and whatnot. And I don't think I'm ever going to be one of those people unless I watch the show 14 times. But I think one of the things that the players pick up on, and something that you as an audience member can pick up on as well, is deciding if it's a twist like this one in particular, I think it worked for, is just kind of put the twist aside and figure out who you're voting out. Like once there are people that are up on the block, anybody who was able to identify, okay, Natalie and Spencer are 2 of 4 people that are going to be up. Are we okay with either of them going? If we are, let's start just making sure the votes are on them, no matter who else ends up there, because we're kind of wasting our time discussing who's the killer, who's this, who's that. If we could just get the votes on the people we want to get the votes on, if we are like, Spencer's up there, let's get him out. Let's just start working on that because time is going to run out quickly. These rounds go by fast.
Yeah.
Well, I think though that they want to like take control though of the situation. They don't want to just be like, okay, I'm not going to play through this twist. Like I'm going to just like do the bare minimum here. And so I think that they want to have some agency in the outcome a little bit more. And so I think that that's why they're playing it through as opposed to just like, okay, well, forget about the twist. We'll just deal with what we have, what we know right now. I think they're just two gamers.
Rachel's not going to want to do that, right? Rachel's not going to want to be like, oh, let's forget about the twist. Like, of course she wants to be the one to, to figure it out, to make sure that she gets, the person up on the block or up in exile rather than herself. But as Muna even said later on, like the odds of her getting it correct were pretty slim. So at a certain point, it's like, all right, there's only so much time.
Well, it's interesting because when I've seen this play out in the mini games, the detective is usually right. The detective actually usually catches the killer. And so I was actually a little bit surprised to see that nobody even came close in this episode. Nobody, I think, even mentioned Billy's name. So Rachel ended up being the detective. Billy was the killer. And I do feel like Billy did a good job of just throwing up people that were not connected to her in any way.
Yeah, I definitely was like impressed with like her strategy around who she was nominating and even her acting skills. I was like, girl, you are doing really well with convincing people that like, oh, okay, yeah, oh my gosh, and kind of, following along with their plans or whatever while she's the killer sitting there with them. So I was impressed by Billy this episode for sure.
Completely the star of the episode, Billy. Like not even close. Anybody else? Like, if there's a fishy going out, if whatever, top of the list, obviously Billy for that. Every step of the way, each round getting to check in with Billy at the end where she would be like, yeah, I'm good. Like nothing's like they're not looking at me. They're looking at everybody else. And it was like, yeah, like she was killing it. I saw a lot of praise for her on Twitter, obviously very well deserved. So it was a lot of fun. Like I couldn't imagine many other people on this cast being better for that spot. I mean, I'm sure other people would have done well, but Billy made it entertaining and obviously did a great job not getting caught all the way. And it's like, since Billy didn't get caught, like no one's gonna production is not telling them it was Billy at the end of the round. Like nobody probably found out about this until they were getting on the plane going home being like, oh yeah, by the way, who was the killer in that round? And Billy was like, ha 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 ha.
Well, see, in my mind, the best time for people to find out about this is when Billy's sitting in one of the final two chairs.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, hey,
sure, yeah. Hopefully
I was the killer that round. I feel like that's a great thing to drop, especially for a player like Billy. And this is why I felt like it was so fun that she was the killer and that she did so well, is that she's one of these people that came into the game and was not as like bloodthirsty as the others in my interview with her. And even in the first episode, she's like, hey, I go off of vibes. Like, I just want to get, play with the people I get along with. I feel like she's not the person that you would necessarily suspect to be so devious. And that's almost why it was so fun. And part of why she's able to pull it off so well when she is so devious that nobody even would suspect that it's her. And why I think it would be so impressive to drop that kind of thing at the end if she made it there. I think it's great resume building. It's going back to what you were saying, Matt, when you have a twist like this or any kind of complicated twist, it may not be necessary to play through every little aspect of it. But if you do and you do it well, that can be resume building and it can win you respect in the game, while you're playing or, at the end, if you're trying to make a case that like, hey, I was really good at Sequester. I figured out the killer or I was the killer and I got away with it. That sort of thing is interesting as well.
Yeah, and Billy was the one who had to play that round the most, this whole episode the most, and more than anybody else. There were people who were sitting back saying it doesn't matter what happens in this round. I'm not involved. I mean, if they were on the kill list, obviously that would have become a problem for some people. But as you started to get towards like round 2, round 3, and you saw people like Brendan and Muna realizing that they were probably okay, it was like, all right, let me sit back a little bit. Billy had to be every single round kind of involved in things, in conversations, like just making sure that she was still playing the role of investigator, of trying to figure out like, so what do you think? You think this person might have put this person up or whatever, just to make sure that, it never once bounced back and somebody would have been like, oh, do you think Billy, maybe she's been kind of quiet, looking calm, looking like she, like you still have to look involved if you're in that spot.
Yeah,
So-
like I've played Secret H, and it's really challenging for me to be in that H role because like I smile when I shouldn't, or like I know I'm not good at lying in those kind of games. So I don't think I would be a very good killer or even detective. If I was a detective, I'd have to become clean right from the beginning, be like, let's work together, guys, and then try to suss out the information.
Well, that really speaks to the decision that Rachel makes throughout the game, which is that she decides she's not going to tell the group that she's the detective. And the reasoning behind it is that she feels like if she exposes the fact that she's the detective, at least according to what she said in the episode, that that people would just be trying to give her misinformation, that the killer would be in her ear trying to lead her astray. Which, like, you can kind of understand where she's coming from with that. But on the flip side, if you have not revealed that you're the detective, then you're basically at the whims of whoever's talking to you. And that's essentially what we saw with Rachel, is that, you know, her allies kind of had their own theories about, like, well, maybe it's this person, maybe it's this person. They kind of whispered them into Rachel's ear, and she's like, I guess this one then, and maybe this one. And so, you know, not sort of fully utilizing the entirety of the group and the information that they had, I think was a missed opportunity, because if you do expose that you're the detective and you're like, hey, I want to interview everyone, like I want to get thoughts, then, you know, you would be able to sit down with Chantele and she would smile at you and you'd be like, why are you acting so weird, Chantele?
I don't know. It wasn't me. I'm not the killer. No, exactly. And like, I feel like it would be a lot easier and more fun for her too, to be just trying to like decipher like what's true, what's not true. Like, I feel like that would be the part of the game that I would enjoy the most, is seeing if I could detect what was going on with the other players. So I think she just chose a role that was a little more passive and, in my opinion, a little more less fun. I would have had
And
more
I
fun
don't,
with
I don't
it
know
too.
that it was entirely like the wrong play. I think everybody was pretty much understanding, like, yeah, I get why you did it, why you said it, whatever. But like in hindsight, it's kind of like, well, everybody spent a lot of time trying to figure out who the investigator was. And, you know, if they had all that time to spend thinking about who the killer was because they already knew who the investigator was, which is not really that important for them to have found out, then maybe you would have had more help. Maybe you would have had people like Brent or Brendan or whoever walking around like trying to find out who it was, because if it was somebody that they wanted to get up on like as an option rather than Rachel, then they might have tried harder to try to make that happen. But the entire, you know, so long in there, they were trying to be like, so why isn't this person telling us? And, you know, distracted from the round itself, from trying to help.
Yeah,
And I would wonder, oh, go ahead.
Oh, that's the thing. It's that you know, basically everyone else is relying on you in this round, because they're all scared that they might be put up by the killer. Because, you know, just to try and explain how this works, even though this is sometimes makes it a little more confusing to hear it instead of seeing it, but the killer put 3 people on their kill list. The detective had 3 guesses at who the killer was. When the detective got the first guess wrong, the first 2 people on the kill list became eligible to be voted out. Then the killer had the opportunity to change who they had on the kill list. The detective got another guess wrong, and so a third person went up for elimination, and then the detective had a final guess where if they got it right, again, the killer would be up for elimination. If they get it wrong, then they become up for elimination. And so basically throughout the first 2 rounds, everybody in the game is like, I want the detective to succeed, because if the detective succeeds, then I'm not gonna go up. You know, the killer will go up, the thing will stop, and I'm gonna be safe. So I want to help the detective, and so, because people are relying on you, withholding information from them is going to sort of alienate them, as we saw in the episode. And in the reverse, I feel that if you open up to the group and you have the whole group helping you out, you have conversations with people, you're working together with them, it's a great way to bond with people in a round like this, where you're now developing working relationships with people that you may not have otherwise. So I do feel like the correct play here is to just be like, hey, I'm the detective, let's figure this out.
And also, we missed the moment of her like interviewing Billy and see if Billy has shaky eyes.
Exactly.
I wanted to see if she had those shaky eyes, you know? So she didn't even really make the killer nervous to maybe see any tells that might be even useful further down in the game. Like, oh, I know when so-and-so is lying or telling mistruths, they might do X, Y, Z. And so that also, I think, is a missed opportunity with not kind of revealing that sooner.
Yeah, I feel like if it was me, if I had been that spot that Rachel was in, I feel like I would have been so in my head. Like, if I tell people, people are going to be shitting on me all online. Like, why did you tell everybody? Why did you
No, I
tell
would
them
have
that
told
you had
everybody.
information? Why did you keep, it's, and yeah, for this specific round, I do agree. I think that the better move would have been to tell more people, have people helping you out. Like, I don't know if when Brent, exclaims like, you need to tell us, like, let us help you. I don't know if that's the exact moment I would have like, because then I feel like I'm caving. Then I
Oh,
feel like
exactly.
I'm giving in. This is not my game anymore. This is Brent's move. Brent got it out of me. So at that point, I don't know that I can do it. But maybe like, you get pulled over to the side room and start talking to some more people. She already had told Shireen at that point. She told Muna, maybe tell a couple more people. Try to get more people on board and be like, it doesn't even have to be Brent. Tell everybody but Brent. Like get whatever it is to start getting people to start helping you. It just, she ended up being pushed into such a corner with the intensity of the room. The environment had just kind of like been like crowding around whoever it was going to be, that whenever the person was found out, it was like almost like people were going to be like yelling at her for the fact that she hadn't said anything yet. And it was like becoming so stressful for her. I can't even imagine. This is why I don't play.
Well, yeah, and I do feel like when I talked about sort of like this is an opportunity to win respect in the game and sort of at the end of the game, I do feel like this was all it also provides opportunities for you to kind of lose respect in the game. And I do feel like this may have been what happened here with Rachel when she doesn't really own up to the fact that she's the detective when everyone wants her to, and then at the end is kind of like, okay, now I was the detective, and she can't figure out the killer. I feel like it's going to be harder for her at the end of the game to say, hey, I played a really effective game, because there's such a concrete example of her failure to some degree. So I'm kind of looking at her from this point forward as like, okay, how is she going to move forward from here and like sort of win the respect back of the other players, assuming that she has lost it to some degree, and how can I like show that like no, I'm good at this and I can figure these things out. So like I'm watching for that for Rachel.
This was a tough spot for her. I mean, she comes in as somebody who also hasn't played minis before, right? I'm pretty sure that was what she said, that she's one of the newer ones as well. She's not as deep into the community. She made connections coming into the house. Like people were drawn to her, and she was drawn to them right back. So, she was doing well. It just was a really tough spot for her to come right in and get this such an important role, have all this attention on her. So yeah, I mean, hopefully the next round is something that'll kind of make maybe like there's still so many big targets in the game. Like I don't know how people can be going forward being like, we have to get Rachel because of what happened last round. So I do think she has room to kind of move back around, and the people that are by her side that she's kind of working with, I think she'll be okay. It's just really bad timing for this to happen, but it's the game.
Yeah. But I also think that she may be in trouble for the fact that she didn't strategize with the other players. Like, I want to play these type of games with people that I can strategize with, that we can get, figure out a plan and work together. And so she was withholding so much information, and it was just kind of like a wall of like, being able to interact with each person.
Yeah.
And so I think that might be like, people might be like, oh, I can't really work with her, so I don't really want her here. And so that could end up being her demise for that reason.
Now it could be a whole thing of like, she's not fully honest, because she went an entire 6 hours, or that wasn't a 6 hour game, an entire, whatever the hour, 2 hours of the game was, like lying to me every time that we had a conversation. And I asked, are you involved in today's activities? She would have been, thinking back on all that. She was lying the whole time. So I hope, I hope not, because I do like her. I do think that she's that group with her, Shireen, maybe Muna, if that's like a threesome, I think that has potential. But yeah, I'm a little nervous for her.
Yes. So speaking of Brent and the ineffectiveness of trying to force Rachel into admitting she was the detective, I feel like that's a great example of Brent's gameplay in this episode at the very least, right? Where like I think that he is probably technically correct, right, about what he's saying about the detective. Like, hey, you say who you are. That's the right decision. But the way he goes about it, as Matt mentioned, almost in a way forces the person to not say anything, because I think you're right, Matt, that once Brent stands up and he's like, "You do this already? Why haven't you done it yet?" For somebody to kind of meekly be like, okay, I'm the detective. It's like that's almost worse than the ultimate look that Rachel has, right? So that's interesting there, but I think it also applies to this move that he makes with Katie at the start of the round, where it's very clear that all night long Brent has been, up in bed, like, all right, what am I gonna say to Katie when I get a chance to talk to Katie again? She's so mad at me, and he's gonna interrupt a conversation with her and Rachel by just kind of like popping in, and
there was some kind of like finger going on, like
well,
one second.
That was later
with Rachel,
right?
I don't know, there's a couple of different times we could be talking about.
But yeah, so and like, I don't think he's even, I don't remember. I don't know if he's done the finger yet, but like, even just interrupting the conversation, like Rachel's just like, he's dead to me.
Yeah, she already wasn't feeling him the day prior, so.
I don't like this guy. He just interrupted my conversation. This guy's dead to me.
Yeah.
Well, and like, I understand where she's kind of coming from, because I think that he may have decided that he can't really work with Rachel. So he kind of is dismissive of her. And so she's probably getting that feeling from him, and then him actually dismissing her. I would probably be like, okay, well, I'm over it. Like, I'm not even going to bother trying to get to know you. So not necessarily the most observant of how he's coming across to everybody in the house right now.
It seems clear that social game may be a bit of an issue for Brent. I saw him tweet out as well that he had no idea that Rachel hated him so much.
I mean, look, and just as far as what Chantel's saying, it's like he knows who the power players are, right? He knows who the people are that are going to have control over the game, and Katie could be one. Katie is somebody who seemed to come in with a bit of a reputation. Obviously, the target's kind of been on her back, but if she was able to kind of regain footing and pull in people that she's kind of working with, the Marcellos and Spencers, if they had connected, and she had found a way to kind of gain numbers again, he does want to be on her good side. Rachel doesn't seem to be in that spot. He's been getting in good with Muna, with Jacob, so he is trying to kind of connect himself to people, Josh as well, of course. Like he's working around to try to make himself in good with these people who could be making key decisions at one point or another. I guess Rachel, isn't really being seen as that just yet. So he was kind of like, Rachel, one second, Katie, we gotta talk. We gotta work this all out.
Yeah. So he pulls Katie aside and he says, look, I had to do it. He was gonna pull me into the battle match, but here's what I want to propose to you. I want to propose a marriage of necessity. Here's how it works. If you get voted out in this game for any reason, you pull me into a battle match. If I get voted out in this game for any reason, I pull you into a battle match. What he's trying to do is, he's trying to be Vanessa, right? Like, he's trying to incentivize Katie so that, like, she has incentive to keep Brent around, because if he gets eliminated, voted out for any reason, now she knows he's going to choose her to battle against in the battle match, and that's not good. So she is now going to be working for Brent in the game to make sure he sticks around, at least voting, with the vote, so that he doesn't pull her into a battle match. And on top of that, she can't tell anyone that he did this, because if she does, now everyone else knows, oh, if I vote out Brent, he's just auto-pulling Katie. That's perfect. Right. Let's all vote out Brent. So, again, you can kind of see where this is coming from, but it's a little bit of like the slash and burn, right? Like, it's a bit overkill in my opinion, because first of all, Katie is like, she is the kind of player that will go along with this for now, but she's not going to take kindly to it, and she's going to do everything in her power to like weasel out of it at her first opportunity. Second, in order to make this happen, he is shutting the door in people's faces as they walk in. He's like, oh no, sorry, can you just leave, please? And like, I was doing a rewatch of Big Brother Canada 5 with Kevin and Bruno before Big Brother 22 started. And there's a great moment in the first week where Aika is, all the craziness is happening in the first week. Aika's standing in front of the door so that it can't open. So that they try to open it, it bonks right into her, and she's just like holding the door shut. After the first person opens the door, Brent, just take a step back. Let go of Katie's hands, take a step back, and stand in front of the door so that nobody can open it. Then you're not having to shut the door in people's faces. There's just a small piece of advice.
This is BB Can 6. Jesse holding the door open when Veronica came walking by into the red room, and his woke moment.
He's woke.
Yeah, he was woke, and he needed to talk to the people he needed to talk to. He kept his hand on the door, and she tried to open it. She's like, "Can I come in?" He's like, "Sorry, V, I need a second." Like, just that clip is burned into my mind. Yeah, as far as the moment goes, while he's talking to Katie, it could have been better, I think. Or tell me what you guys think. Obviously, if he had said this in a way of like, I think this would be a great idea. So like, okay, so if you get voted in at any point, just know that you like have my permission or whatever it is. Like I think that what you should do is pull me in. I want you to know that I am working so hard for you, so hard to keep you in this game, that if you end up going because I wasn't able to save you enough, like that's how hard I'm working for you, then pull me in, because you'll probably beat me and you'll be able to get back in the game. Like that's how hard I want to work for you. But when he turned it by saying, and if I go home, then I'm gonna take you, that's when Katie was getting upset, and she was like, wait, what did I do? Like, why would I be punished for you going out? Like, you're the one who voted for me and I'm upset about it. So like, if you're trying to make things better with me, why is this a two-way thing? Like, why are you going to take me out? And so I don't know. I feel like if he tried to just make it like you have my fate in your hands, if anything bad happens to you, I think that might have gone over better.
And I think if he had just maybe slowed down his delivery a little bit and maybe had a bit of more of a conversation about it and come up with this idea organically, even though he had the intention of that being the outcome, just be like, hey, what are we going to do to like get over like what's happening? Like, I don't know. I was thinking like maybe we can try to, I think you just need to slow it down and kind of be relatable, as opposed to seeming to hammer this idea that he decided is the perfect way for them to resolve their differences. And I think that his approach wasn't going to be working with a player like Katie, and he just needed to like slow it down, just make it a little bit more of a conversation instead of like an aggressive kind of hammering of his thoughts and opinions.
Yeah. Now, I will say, I do think that in terms of short-term effectiveness, I think it works. We're later going to hear from Katie when she's talking to Marcella. She's like, look, it's water under the bridge. I don't care about the Brent thing anymore. And if Brent had ended up on the chopping block, I would not be surprised if Katie had actually been working to keep him around that round, because she knew that he would end up pulling her into a battle match. So short term, I do think that this is, there's something to this idea. Like, it's not so bad that I'd be like, never do this.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like where I started this whole thing with Brent, which is like his ideas are sound. The execution of them is where you could, I think, have a bit more to be desired.
And there's two things here. So adding in to the pitch that he was making by also giving Katie some like concrete information from his perspective of Shireen's coming after you. Shireen is vocally, wanting you out, and I'm telling you this because I am going to do what I can to stop that. Like that's a good thing. But it's just, while this is all happening, to be making, even if he is making something work here with Katie, the door closing, it's really rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. Brendan getting like shoved out of the room, and then like you see him make the next confession. I don't remember what he says, but he's like, what the hell, man? Like, literally, like, just shove me out of the room. He's like, so that's not really winning people over. But I don't know that he would expect that was like that. He wasn't thinking about that at the moment. He was just, I need to talk to Katie. Katie is my number one person I'm trying to talk to here, and that was all. So
Yeah.
Was there like a time frame for this? Like, was it like they only had 15 minutes before like the first activity?
There were 10 minutes in this round, and I believe Brent tweeted something along the lines of, I thought that Katie might be the killer, and if she was going to put me up. So I wanted to make sure I got this out and convinced her to change her mind and take me off her list if she was the killer in that short amount of time.
Right.
Which, again, you can kind of understand it there. But here's the thing. If I'm like, I think what we saw from Katie was, because when Brent proposes this, my first thought would be, this is a terrible deal for me because you're a lot more likely to get voted out than I am. So when you're forcing me to carry your dead weight. Excuse me. And so Katie's first thought seems to be, okay, the second I get an LOS, I'm voting this guy out. He can try to drag me into a battle match all he wants. My first thought, I think, would be, okay, I just need to convince whoever's getting voted out to pull him into a battle match because he can't pull me if he's the one being pulled. So every single round, it would now be my mission to convince the person being voted out, drag Brent. And like whoever Brent is voting for, I want to make sure they leave so that they drag Brent because I can't have this anchor tied to me all game.
That's pretty smart. I think that would have been a good way to like use this whole scenario in your favor.
I mean, imagine the episode where Brent goes into the battle match, comes out victorious, gets the LOS, gets back in the game. Like they said it couldn't be done. And
well, now he has
Brent
an LOS. Now I don't need to worry about him being voted out as much. That's now
true.
He's not as much of an anchor.
I mean, imagine the gameplay knowing he's got safety in his pocket. Oh my goodness. Knowing if he, you know, I don't even know. I don't even know what would come next, but could happen.
Could happen. So we see Josh. Josh seems to be reintegrating pretty well. He's going to have a good conversation with Marcelo. He wins some cool points with him. And he talks with, I believe, Shireen. And nobody seems to really be after Josh anymore. It seems like whatever it is that he did in that first round, by calling Jay West out, by winning the battle match, coming back in, he's full of confidence, Josh. Lots of F-bombs when he talks. I don't know if that's part of it. But it seems like he's able to at least a little bit reintegrate here. Also, the thing that immediately stood out to me was the language he used when he was talking about the round, about Brent's vote. He said, well, Brent caved under my threat and did what I wanted him to do. He did not say, like, Brent voted for me, Brent tried to keep me, Brent, voted to keep me. He said, Brent caved under my threat. So I don't think there's any trust there. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of trust there from Brent, which again, kind of like, Brent goes to Muna trying to give her safety in the first round, hoping that sort of builds a bridge. In this episode, Muna's trying to convince Spencer to drag Brent into the battle match. Then Brent, votes to keep Josh, hoping that will build some kind of bridge. And then again, in this episode, we're hearing that people are not interpreting Brent in a very favorable way, it seems. But the rest of the game, the rest of the house seems to be linking the two of them together. That, all right, well, if Brent did this, then they're going to try to be he's going to be trying to work with Josh. They're going to be working together because they've got no one else. And this is a pair that is becoming a threat, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that they're going to have to lean into that because people are going to assume that anyways, that they're the only two people that voted for Katie that last round. And so if people are going to assume that, whether or not you agree with that or you believe that, if people are thinking that, you might want to at least act that way in order to like maybe steer the other players a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Taran, we've spent a lot of time with Brent in person. I haven't ever had this experience, but has he ever come up to you and just held your hands in that way to connect and to talk? It's a new thing. I'm not used to seeing. It's just not something that I've seen from him before.
That was the thing. Like in the first episode, I was watching it live on Twitch, and Rachel said that Brent is a close talker, and people were like, "Taran, is Brent a close talker?" And I was like, I've never experienced him being a close talker. I've never felt that way. And I was like really trying to think. I was like, yeah, I don't think I've ever really thought that. And I'm somebody that if you're a close talker, like I notice, please take a step back. And so I was like, yeah, I don't think he's really a close talker. Maybe it's just, maybe he's just nervous. It's his first day. He's just getting to know people. But no, it seems like the longer he's there, the closer and closer he gets, and the like tighter he grips your hands.
And see, but like we'll talk about it a couple different times. This cast is big on the hand holding. I don't know if it's the post, not that COVID's over. It's like reconnecting with people in a time of COVID, of just like feeling human connection around you again. There was a lot of hand holding in the episode, and of course, not romantic or anything like that, but just Brent and Josh
with
connecting.
with the
Jacob with the
seance.
circle, yeah. Shireen and Brent later on. Just everybody is like, it's just like, hold my hands and let's talk through this. Let us feel connected through like let's send the good energy back and forth through each other. And I'm gonna keep it. It's only episode 2. I feel like this is bound to continue through the next couple of days in the game.
I'm just waiting for the jury questioning where, both of the final 2 members are just like in the jury, just like, I would really appreciate your vote, just holding your hands like this.
Like, voting for whoever had the softer hands or whoever had the better grip. I don't know.
Well, I'm thinking though, maybe it's because a lot of these players are more familiar with being playing during a mini. And so being in real life with people, they're like, oh, wait, I have to connect with them. I'm used to just seeing them on the screen and like being able to be like, okay, we're good.
They can't be kicked out of the room if I'm holding on to them.
Exactly. Round ending.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a wild, just to like step back an episode, I guess, a wild experience for all these people to have seen each other. Because like, you go to events and you see people at like, know-it-alls or whatever it is. And it's like, oh, cool. Like you're that person I talked to on the internet. But to like be jumping into like a game and not have to just have these connections be like, oh, we're good. To have it be like, we are going to work together for the next 7 days to get to the end of this game. Like we need to be good. Like we need to be like, you and me are close, like good friends. Like, I don't know. I haven't seen any hugs yet, right? Maybe.
I'm sure there have been hugs.
I don't know if they've been on cam yet. I'm keeping an eye out. So the hand holding were there.
You got that eagle eye waiting for the hugs.
Jacob's also big on. I don't know if he's doing a lot of hand holding, but every time he talks to Spencer, he's got his hand very close, right?
It's true.
And Spencer at one point had to be like, "Dude, my mic. You're hitting my mic every time you talk to me."
Yeah, you gotta watch out for the mics, man.
These are the notes I took.
Yeah. The chat was very upset with us when we skipped over the Josh confessional about how they can. They can vote him off, but they can't beat him off.
Well, now that you said it,
yeah,
now we're good.
I mean, hopefully that's not the end game of this whole thing.
Yeah, I didn't remember that quote. I feel bad.
You didn't
I didn't write it down.
That's at the beginning, right? When he gets his LOS. Yeah. You can't get me out of here. I'm not saying it.
I didn't write it down. I wrote down he wasn't planning on telling anybody.
See, my immediate thought was, okay, did he plan for that, or did he accidentally say it and then just like immediately rolled with it? Because I kind of felt like he accidentally got there and then played it off with his normal like Josh confidence.
Yeah, I don't think he went into that confessional saying, you know what joke I have planned here. I'm sure that's how it worked out, but he's quite the character, and he's. I think somebody corrected me earlier that Rachel had played in the mini before. Josh, I'm pretty sure hasn't, right?
I think they all have.
He's played one.
Oh,
sure.
I know what I'm talking about. I don't know why I was invited here, but yeah. So I don't know. I thought that there was like 1 or 2 people that hadn't played before, but I guess I haven't seen Josh's mini. So definitely a good find, I would say. He's been a lot of fun through 2 episodes so far, and even this episode he was like fading into the background a little bit because he wasn't as involved. He was involved with the Brent stuff, and I think we obviously have to keep an eye on these 2 going forward. Brent had a confessional where he was talking about how he thinks that Josh is someone that could be set up to go far into the game, and that's why he wants to link himself to him. He's like, if I have Josh that feels good about me and wants me around, that that's the kind of player that I think I should hold on to. But the rest of the house is like, oh no, these 2 were a pair now, so that could be a problem.
This is one of those situations, it feels, where, in the game, the players sort of recognize that there are some of them that don't have as many connections because they're not as involved in the mini community. People like Josh, who have only played once or whatever, don't have a bunch of friends in the mini community. Unlike somebody like Jacob, who's got a bunch of friends in the mini community and a bunch of friends in this game. And so, like, you have these people who are like, oh yeah, I'm kind of not a connected person, and it would be great to link up with the other not connected people, and they know that intellectually, but they don't necessarily know it with the urgency that it's required of them to know it, right? Like, people like Josh and Brent should be working together, like, intently. Natalie should be working with them very hard. Spencer should be working with them very hard. Like, anybody who is not in the friend group, who is not deeply connected, who is not in the inner core, essentially. The Jacob, Muna, Marcelo trio, I feel like, is the embedded trio of this game. It's the Cody, Nicole, Enzo of Sequester season 4, and anyone who is not those three should be looking elsewhere for some allies. And instead, it feels like a lot of people are looking into the trio for allies.
That's how it always works, right? That's why all of these people that you always think are like, you go in thinking that Puya and Liana are the biggest threats, of course, in the RHAP mini. They're the, how do you not separate the couple? And next thing you know, they're in the final four. One of them wins the game. So yeah, I mean, you want to play with, I want to play with Jacob. I want to play with Muna. Like, oh, I don't want to play, but when you go into the game and you see people that you like and respect and have spent, however many times they've played over the past couple of weeks watching, like, you want to spend time with them. I don't want to send this person off to the jury house and like half of this experience that I have with them is going to be completely separated because I'm in the game. I don't know. I mean, obviously, you don't want to bring them too far into the game, but that's why they end up going far. That's why the Codys and Enzos go all the way to the end, because at a certain point, it's hard to stop them. It's impossible to stop them even.
Yeah, and we get a little montage of Jacob being like, yeah, I'm just like, I think I'm set up pretty well here. I mean, like, everyone's coming to me. I've got a bunch of friends, right. And he's saying 1,000% to a bunch of people. It's going pretty well.
But just to add on to what I was saying, Sequester is obviously a different game than Big Brother, where, the twists and turns of each round completely change the possibilities, where you aren't going to see, like, I'll put my bet on this, that we're not seeing a Muna Jacob final 2, right? So the twist, like, at some point, there's going to be a twist that will allow one of the people that are in that core to get out. And you have 13 people here that are all gamers. You don't have people on the outs, people that are not playing for themselves. Everybody wants to get to the end and do well. And yeah, Jacob has many connections in the game, and it was very fun to see. I mean, as a Jacob fan, very fun to see him not have to, like, break too much of a sweat here this week, where everybody was like, no, I want to keep him safe. I want to I want him around. I'm working with Jacob. We're all working with Jacob.
Yeah, it's really nice just to be, like, relieved that, like, okay, we don't have to really worry about him too much. Like, it doesn't seem like people are trying to come and get him out, because I do want to see him play. I'm enjoying what he's doing, and, he's pretty well set up, and it's kind of similar to Muna and her Oprah of her alliances that she has going on. And so I think that they both will last a little while longer, and I wouldn't be surprised, though, if they snuck to the end and were the final two. Like, I know you think that somebody's going to come after them, but they might be that likable that it doesn't happen.
Yeah, the thing about Sequester, more so than a show like Big Brother, is that it does not reward group gameplay as much. Because, if you are at the top of the alliance, if you are the Jacob, Muna, or Marcelo, then you don't have as much incentive to protect your numbers as you would in a game like Big Brother. Because in a round like this, and you saw it, right? Where, like, you're too vulnerable to care too much about, like, your extra number 5. You've got to stick to your core people. You're 1, 2, and 3 at best. You're 1 and 2. And anybody else is expendable. And because of that, there's less reason for people who recognize that they are number 5 to stick around for too long, because that's actually the worst position to be in, that Katie spot, where Katie was essentially their bulldog. Like, she was, pushing names for them, being a person who gets picked for battle matches for them. She was the Danny of this group. And the difference between Big Brother and Sequester is that even though Danny was a huge target in the early days of Big Brother 22, Cody was able to keep her around for another 2 months. Katie is gone in this episode, and I do think that weakens this position of this big group, where they no longer have Katie as the shield in front of them, and that's going to be interesting for them moving forward.
Yeah, they did not want Natalie to come back, right? I don't remember if they specifically were talking about cheering for anybody, but Natalie coming back, like that is, somebody that's probably considered an outsider. If anybody that is looking to gather that group together, that is definitely where Natalie should fit in rather than where Katie would have. So absolutely.
Do you think that Billy should be worried about Natalie being the one coming back? Like Natalie kind of saying, like, I'm coming for you, Billy. But do you think that that threat is something that Billy should be wary of or worried of?
I don't think so. I mean, to me, the way I would have taken it in the game, if I was Billy, the way I would have taken it was, okay, I see what you're trying to do. I'm going to have a conversation with you after this, and we're going to totally work this out. Because to me, it just felt like Natalie trying to do the Josh thing and just like trying to like step up. You know what I mean? Trying to be like, hey, I'm coming for people. Don't mess with me. Because that's kind of what you have to do in this spot, where you kind of have to be like, no, look, I've got enemies. I'm coming for people. I'm not just going to be stepped on. Don't think that I'm an easy vote. That's what Josh did when he was going. He chose Katie, and then he was like, you know what? You're going to try and step to me, Jay West? Let's go. And I think Natalie was trying to do the same thing. I think she picked Katie because Katie was a big target. Katie was a big threat, and she wanted to. It's the prison thing. You go up to the biggest guy there and you punch him in the face or whatever, right? That's totally gonna work out for you. And so,
speaking from experience,
yeah. So I think that was what went into it. I don't think there's like real like hard feelings going on there. I think if Billy wanted to, she could easily go and talk to Natalie in the next round and be like, hey, this isn't good for either of us. I'm really sorry, that I voted for you, and I'm sorry that I told you to play harder. I really was just trying to like give you advice, but I see now that, how I could have offended you. So look, I think this is a great opportunity for us to work together moving forward. Nobody will know, so on and so forth.
Yeah, of course that would be ideal. I don't know if I see it, just because this game does move so fast. Like by the time that, they get back, they start the next round. I'm assuming that, it is 7 days. I don't know the exact timeline, but I'm assuming that this round was happening in the same time as the same day as the next round that's going to be coming. So it's like, is there enough time for like the feelings, the emotions involved to settle, where Natalie is not feeling like, because you saw that emotion in the confessional there, where she was like, she's telling me to play harder. I'm like, I'm trying, Natalie was really upset about that. She's like, I can't really break through some of the barriers that she's been trying to with some people. It seems like Billy, especially after they had connected a little bit during that first round, didn't seem like it was like genuine enough to click. Of course, obviously, because Billy just ended up putting Natalie on the list, the kill list. So, I mean, obviously Natalie's not going to know that, but I don't know that it's going to be as easy as it sounds or as it could be
Matt,
for them to connect.
It's super easy. All she needs to do is interrupt a conversation that Natalie's having with somebody else, and then slam some doors in people's faces as she quickly says, look, I'm proposing a marriage of necessity.
No, we don't need any of that. Just link up, handhold, let's go. Get the energy flowing between just two friends playing Sequester, two new friends playing Sequester. That could happen.
Yeah, I think there'll be enough time. I mean, like, over the course of the entire round, it was clear that, like, Katie had time to, go upstairs into a bedroom and, like, have a long conversation with Marcelo. Like, I think, Brent was worried in that first 10-minute period that he needed to get this across to Katie in case she wasn't the killer. But outside of that kind of situation, I think there's going to be enough time. And, Natalie's not exactly somebody with a ton of numbers behind her anyway, so you can afford to be a little patient with it as well. So I don't think this needs to be an issue. We'll see if it is, but I think Billy and Natalie will be fine. I don't think this is going to be something that is too out there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm interested in seeing. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing her maybe put the target on Billy and to see how Billy works under pressure in that way. That would be interesting for sure. But it could be a way for Natalie to kind of be like, hey, like, how will we do Billy? Like, and just like start maybe talking to people and strategizing, be like, she's so good, she's so social, blah, blah, blah. So she might use it to her advantage to maybe start working with some other people, make Billy the target.
Wasn't Billy the one that came in saying like she's feeling the vibes of everybody, and you know, kind of have to pass, right? So she was like, I don't know. I just feel like the vibe isn't really going to change between these two. I feel like, you know, as much as they could try to make the game, you know, like prioritize the game, like we need each other because people are going to think that we're coming after each other. I don't know if Natalie's vibe isn't changing anytime soon. Billy's going to be like, all right, there's 100 other people here I could work with. You know, 10.
Well, yeah, but like Billy doesn't need to go after Natalie, and I don't think Natalie needs to go after Billy. Like,
No,
I don't think it
other.
helps either of their games to do so. So I think they're both smart players, and I think they'll recognize that, like, you know, maybe for show this can work, but like there's no reason for us to actually target each other here.
Yeah.
But that, you know, kind of leads us into that Natalie and Spencer are the first two people on the hit list. I believe Katie was the first guess as the for the killer. And so that was obviously incorrect. And so Natalie and Spencer are going to be vulnerable for this vote. I thought this was a good pick for Billy to remain anonymous. It seems like it was basically the group consensus pick, especially considering what happened in the previous round, where a lot of people talked about Natalie being on the outs, and Spencer. Spencer seemed to be more integrated into that group than he appeared to be in this episode, but it's pretty clear that he never really was. He, you know, if Katie is sort of an outside number, then Spencer is kind of like the parachute of the outside number. Like, it's not great, not a great spot for him. So Spencer and Natalie are going to be there. Spencer is going to end up being the target, I believe. But both of them are going to be feeling very low. That Spencer is going to talk about this with Muna. Natalie's going to talk about it to the cameras. That like this is the sort of the beef between Billy and Natalie, is that, you know, Billy says to Natalie, "Look, you got to start playing harder if you want to do this." And I feel like that's kind of a common consensus that we give to players that we want to see more from. But Natalie was like, "It's easy for you to say. Like, you've got people in this game. I have no one. I didn't come in here with friends. I came in here with not a single soul willing to work with me. And like, I can play as hard as I want, but if nobody does what I want to do, if nobody is with me, then there's not a lot that I can do. And it's pretty frustrating, actually. So for you to be like, just play harder, it's kind of annoying."
Absolutely. And I kind of know where she's experiencing, because there's like a wall that can't be penetrated, that people are being like, you know what, you're just maybe not good at this game because you can't get into our clique, you know? And so like, I can understand how that could be really frustrating for her on a player level, because it's like, okay, you're at the top and I'm at the bottom, and you're expecting me to play with the vantage point of the people at the top. And so, yeah, I would be really frustrated with her. Yeah.
And I would be annoyed. I would be like, just the fact of like the people that are in the house that are playing like almost actively bad from an appearance standpoint, people that are maybe standing up and making a big scene at certain times in the house, like, you know, that people that are like, you know, like you would look, if I'm a player in the game at that point, I'm going to be like, wow, that is somebody who is playing bad, and you're coming to me, somebody playing low key, somebody like just under the radar, I'm not bothering anybody, and you're saying that I'm playing bad or that I could be playing better. I think, you know, is, to be fair, what she said. So yeah, and while that may be a fair criticism, it's like you're not close enough to really have that kind of you know, it's like, yeah, maybe like she's trying to help you out, whatever, but it doesn't feel as comforting as maybe it was intended to. I wouldn't have been too comforted by it. I would have been like, okay, thanks. Like, appreciate
maybe
it.
with a suggestion on how to do so. You know what I mean? Like hey, like maybe you need to start talking to somebody, or like get into, you know, somebody's ear. Like maybe giving her a suggestion might have been more welcome, that comment. I think it's just the fact it's like, just do better. And she's like, well, how? Like, F off, you know? Like, that's probably how she was feeling.
Yeah. It reminded me of Kristen in season 3, who had kind of like a similar trajectory of like getting in this frustrating position of like, kind of being looked down on in the game, even though like she was like super smart, and she was like, I'm ready to play, I'm ready to do it, but like everyone is just like oh, just play harder, just be a different person than you are, and it's just like, what do you want from me? Like,
nothing to do with Kristen being in the chat right now.
I wasn't sure if that was the actual Kristen.
It does seem to be.
It did like when I was watching, I was reminded opposite of Kristen, because she also had that confessional where she was just like I want, believe me, I want to be doing something. And I think that's interesting because like on a game like Big Brother, you get players who are on the outs and they often don't really know about Big Brother. They're not really that passionate about it. And so they're just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, I'm just doing what I can. But like all of these people are so passionate and they've all played different versions of this game before, and they all know what it's like to be on the in power, and they know what it's like to not be in power. And when they're not able to play the game that they came for, it's got to be really frustrating. And it's interesting to see how, you know, different archetypes handle that, because we see Natalie kind of like she has her moment in the confessional, and then she gets it back out there. She challenges Katie. She's gonna come back. We're gonna see how that works. And then you see Spencer's reaction to it is to kind of like, you know, give his Captain America speech to Muna, and threaten some people into the battle match. And so let's see which one works, right?
Yeah. And I'd be interested to hear if Natalie at any point during all of that suspected that it was Billy that put her up there, because, you know, that wasn't a confessional that we got. So, I mean, I wonder if it was, would we have seen it? But in that moment when you're talking to Billy and realize that, like, you know, this has been going on for a while now, that like their vibe is just not on the same page, whatever. I just wonder if Natalie like knew or had any inclination that that Billy was the one responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
I had that thought as well, but I don't think so. But I was curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next round comes, and so I'd thought about this, especially because the thing flashed like, just a reminder, the killer can change their mind. I was like, oh, I wonder if the killer's going to change their mind. But once Katie is guessed already and proven to not be the killer, the reason Billy gave for putting Brent up as her third person on the kill list was, I want people to suspect Katie. Once Katie is already cleared, I was like, no, that's extra incentive to choose somebody else. And so she does. She changes her mind and she goes from Brent to Jacob, who was just telling us how comfortable he felt. And that is Sequester for you. Like, all of a sudden, Jacob is one of 4 people that could go out of the game here. And I was like, is Jacob about to get sniped in episode 2? Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, and we're happy that didn't happen. But no, yeah, that was you know, it seemed like a random pick there, but you know, Billy obviously had been, you know, thinking about, I'm sure, once she got the assignment of, you know, having to put people up like a top 5 or whatever it may be of like people that would go up. Taking Brent down, I wasn't even sure what to exactly make of that all, because I was like, I mean, does it really change much? Maybe I'm just like, again, I was thinking not enough into the round. I was thinking about like where the votes are going to end up going. I don't know. What did you guys? Did you think that it had any big impact by changing the person?
I think it was the right call, just because like her priority is just not getting caught. And honestly, like if Jacob did leave there, it's going off of Billy's back. Like it's actually might not even be that bad for Billy, to be honest. If he doesn't leave, whatever, she didn't get caught. And so like I think the thing about putting Jacob up is it kind of throws people for a loop. It does kind of, you know, be like, oh, it could be Brent, it could be somebody like Muna or Marcelo who are trying to throw people off the scent. Like she's not the closest person to Jacob. Like basically the people that she was putting up there were people that she just had no connection to whatsoever. Like there was no reason for her, good or bad, for her to do anything. And when you are trying to figure out who might have put this person up, you often think like, okay, who either doesn't like this person and wants to see them up for elimination, or who is close to this person is trying to throw us off the scent. And so by providing no real information, I think that was the best way forward for Billy.
Yeah.
And I wonder how long she had to like deliberate on for her 3 choices, because I think like you had to put a lot of thought into the reasonings why, you know, you'd have these 3 people. And I definitely agree that as soon as Katie was cleared, like you had to change it, because having Brent up there, I think it just makes it a little bit messy. It'd be like, oh, like why would they do that? And I think it might have outed her.
Yeah, and I see Josh in the chat here saying Billy's plan for doing it is that she didn't want another person safe from being guessed. I'm assuming what that means is that once Jacob is the guest, so in the second round, Rachel guesses Jacob is the killer. I'm assuming that means, assuming that's correct, that she had the opportunity to change her mind after the guess was made, so that it wasn't like a right away kind of deal. But either way, I think that's, again, sort of the correct strategy here, in that, now that Jacob is cleared, throw Jacob up. And, if you threw, say, Brent up, Brent hasn't been a guess yet. Now Jacob and Brent are cleared, and the suspect list gets smaller. So I think that's another good bit of thinking there.
It was also hard to kind of focus on the strategy of this all based on what was incoming like 2 seconds after we found out that the switch happened. Right? Isn't this when all the blow up began to happen in the middle of the living room?
I think it was after the first round, actually, right? Because there was the Spencer and Natalie went up, and then Brent stands up and he says, all right, the detective needs to say who they are. And I liked the differing perspectives where, like, Rachel just kept saying, this guy's dead to me. And Brendan was just like, who is this guy?
Oh, yeah,
What
that
is
was
he
the first round.
doing?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's Brent. That's Brent. Welcome to Brent playing a game. It's fun. It created a big moment there as everybody's looking around. Like, everybody got up at once, and like the way that Brent stood up off of the couch was like the room was on fire. Like, he got up and it was like, okay, where's the closest fire extinguisher? Like, he like the energy in the room just completely shifted. It was like, and that, we already talked about this, about like in that moment whether or not what Rachel should have done, or if she was in any position to say so. And also, you are correct that was the other round. But yeah. So at this round, people were a little bit more confused. But I don't know. Maybe he should have just stood up and done it again.
I think after this round, Rachel stands up and she's like, "Okay, I was the detective. Now that Brent is enforcing me to do this, Brent, I am the detective. But at this point, it doesn't matter to any of them." Like, at this point, it's like, I don't even care about helping. Okay, you go up, or some random killer goes up. Either way, I'm safe. I don't care. Yeah. So I feel like, again, it's a little too late at this point. But
and all throughout this time, it was crazy how Shireen was very convinced that it was Jacob. Well, we got a couple of different scenes of discussion, and we saw a couple of people talking there in one of the rooms, and they were like, trying to figure out who it could be. I think Shireen was one of the people that was maybe leading the charge on that, saying that she thought it was Jacob. So it was all worth it for when that moment happens, and Shireen and Jacob are sitting right next to each other. Jacob finds out that he is now on the list and now being exiled, and Shireen's like, well, it's not Jacob.
Yeah. I feel like there were a lot of really bad guesses throughout
I wasn't
game.
following their train of thought with, like, I wanted to understand at least why Shireen was thinking that it was Jacob, but I just was like, is she just throwing names out to the people and just to see what sticks and have Rachel guess it because she's not really on the line necessarily for it?
Yeah, she was, I think, talking about the Jacob and Spencer thing, right? Saying that, like, Jacob would have put Spencer up because he's been hearing that Spencer isn't the biggest fan of him, or whatever the case may be.
Oh, that's true.
And then Jacob ended up going to Spencer later on, so there was that whole thing. But it's this whole part of the game, this whole early on, it's been a lot of like, well, this person doesn't like you. And I'm sure that's how, like, it always goes in a game like this. But getting to see all of it and getting to see, like, especially for this particular round, it was really influencing people as to why this person might be the killer. Spencer's up there, probably could be Jacob. So I didn't think it was a terrible guess, but it's reminding me of, like, in Among Us, as a lot of us have been playing lately. It's like, sometimes you just zero in on the person that you think it is, and once it's hard to switch off of that.
Yeah, I would not want any of these people to be fellow crewmates in Among Us. That would not be very helpful.
It's tough. You're convinced. You're like, no, I know that I saw Puya walk up that hallway. He didn't.
And Rachel would say nothing,
Like, kudos to Josh for immediately clocking Rachel as the detective. But then he's like, Brent could be playing us all. Brent could be doing a whole play right now. And it's like, no, man, you've been watching Brent for 5 years, right? Like, Brent is a man of passions. This is not a Brent move to be the killer and be like, all right, detective, get your stuff together.
I also liked, I mean, I know this is, I think later on, my timeline is all confused, but when he gets accused later on by Rachel of like, thinking that it could be him or Josh, he's like, I like all these people. You think I would have put them up? I'm like, well, who would you have put up? I mean, if you like everybody, it's like, I like all of them. It's like, yeah, I mean, I think everybody kind of likes everybody in one way or another.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask, like, so we kind of talked about this at the start, but overall, this twist, we're gonna see that Rachel's not gonna get it right. Her final guess is gonna be Marcelo, which is also gonna be wrong, and that means that Rachel ends up one of the people up for elimination, along with Jacob, Spencer, and Natalie. Did not love the way that Rachel handled the final like guess situation, where she guesses that it's Marcelo. Then it's like, nope, not me. Okay, now I'm going to elimination. All right, it was definitely then Brent or Josh, one of the two of you, because you're totally working. Like, what are you doing? Like, these aren't even official guesses anymore. Like, why are you just making more enemies as you're up for elimination?
Again, sorry to keep bringing it back to Among Us, but it feels a little relevant. It's like when you get to the end, it's like, oh, all right, it was this person instead. Like when you realize you might have made a mistake, and it's like it doesn't do anything, but like maybe you feel like a little bit better if you get that final call in right before the big reveal happens. But nobody was going to be revealed anyway because the killer got away with it. So it really didn't do much at all here. But it was just such a stressful couple of rounds. I mean, I do agree. Yeah, I definitely don't think it was the right move to just start calling other people out, accusing them, and then now the whole room is looking at only Rachel.
Mm-hmm. We had some interesting responses from this, though, because she calls out Brent and Josh. You guys are obviously working together, and Brent has already gotten a warning from Shireen that, hey, watch out. People are saying that you're working really tightly with Josh. And I again, don't love Brent's social game. I don't love the way he's gonna try to deny this. He's essentially like, Josh? I mean, I'd throw him down I'd throw him under the bus in a heartbeat. What are you talking about? I'm not loyal to that guy at all.
I'd close a door in his face any day.
Yeah. I'd give me a knife right now. I'll stab him in the back. Come on. Whatever you want me to do.
Josh is like, yeah, you think I'm working with this guy?
And so that was the thing, right? So Brent gives that, and people are just kind of like, uh-huh. And then Josh is like, can I just say as well, like, really? You guys think I'm working with Brent? And the whole room laughs. And it's like, okay, Josh kind of saved that, right? Josh, he got people laughing. Like, okay. No. Brent then stands up. He's like, no, I would also like to additionally say that, and I don't even remember but he just goes on for like another minute. It felt like it, at least. And it was just like, and you could see in his face that like, he knows he should stop. But it's one of those situations where like, he can't stop. He's already committed to this, and he's talking, and he's not getting a good reaction. He realizes that he's being awkward, and he stops talking, and there's, again, crickets.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he might have gone over a little bit better if he just kind of was like, well, we're not really working together, but like, I definitely want him in this game. Like, I liked him enough to vote with him, whatever. Like, he could have probably just smoothed it over a little bit better. Cause I also think it could be a little bit detrimental to his game that he doesn't even look loyal. You know, he looks like he would just throw somebody that that people think is his ally under the bus. And that could be them. So if Brent is intently being like, hey, we're working together, then they might be like, well, like working together, like you're working with Josh together, like, is this different? And so I think it could have been a little bit bad to seem disloyal to Josh in this case.
And the whole thing was like, the whole reason that they're so connected is people are like, oh, Josh is an RHAP fan. He's been watching, like, I guess that got out that he's been watching Brent for 5 years.
Brent's the one that's been saying it over and over.
Well, maybe. But it's like still like look around the room. It's like we're all people that are in this reality TV world. You've all watched RHAP once in a while or listened to it in one way or another. Just because Josh was talking about it for 5 minutes, like that's what people are clinging on. I would have like turned around and looked at everybody and be like, "You're telling me you didn't see me on RHAP once in the last 5 years?" And Josh just said something about it. But maybe you have a point if Brent is the one that was pushing it around.
It kind of feels to me like Spencer, or like Josh said to Brent, like, "Hey, I've been watching you for 5 years," and then like from that moment, Brent has been saying, "Josh, the guy that's been watching me for 5 years, yeah, Josh, he's been a fan of me for 5 years. That guy." Like it just feels like he keeps saying it. Like anytime he talks about Josh, he's also mentioning that he's been a fan for 5 years.
No good. You kind of just want your big target to fade away a little bit. I mean, I think everybody knows that it's not going to fade on Brent, but like you don't want to remind them constantly, like, hey, like I am a big shiny target, and I have this guy that probably just wants to keep me in this game because he likes me. So.
I'm just picturing like Josh going out of the game at some point, and the confessional is from Brent at the opening of the next episode. "I really wish Josh didn't go. He's been watching me for 5 years.
Stop.
We connected, and now now he may not talk to me for 5 years because he's out of the game."
I'm just picturing the next time Josh, is voted out, and then he just asks Brent to reveal his vote, and Brent's like, "I'd never betray you, right? Like never in a million years. I would never stab you in the back. I would never throw you under the bus.
Years,
definitely not at the drop of a hat." So the 4 people, Rachel, Jacob, Spencer, and Natalie, up for elimination. And right away, Spencer and Natalie try to get some votes on to Jacob. That's going to immediately be a losing battle, and the players make it pretty clear it's going to be one of the two of you, so you'd better start turning on each other. And they do.
Mm-hmm. Which was necessary, right? I mean, yeah, if it was going to be one of them, obviously it worked out for Rachel that nobody was really saying her name. People were definitely saying her name, but obviously the votes were more so on the other two. Jacob escaping completely free on all of this. But yeah, it was just interesting to track like this segment of the episode. It was probably like almost 10 minutes maybe of just seeing how everybody was trying to figure out where to go, as Natalie was going to try to get Jacob, and then Jacob was trying to be strategic towards Spencer by trying to pull him in, and if things got messy, he was going to be relying on some of the things that he worked into that conversation. So just a lot of fun to see this part of the game, especially, and just see all these people that are just all playing the strategy. It's not something that we're used to watching at all times on our shows.
100%. I loved seeing the scramble. It's like, he can't be me. Like everybody's just like intensity level went to, I guess, Brent levels of intensity, and they wanted to save themselves. So I definitely enjoyed seeing people try to stay in the game.
Yeah, so we see that what Jacob wants is for Spencer to leave, but he does not want his hands on it, all over it. And so he says, we're going to vote Spencer, but we're going to tell Spencer that it's Natalie. We're going to tell, Katie that it's Natalie, whatever. And so that's his goal. And then we're going to see that Spencer is ultimately going to try and get some votes onto Natalie as the alternative. Brent and Brendan seem to be like, yeah, they're willing to work with Spencer to try to get it on someone else if possible. But if it does fall on Spencer, they're going to try and get Spencer to choose Rachel to go into the battle match. This is a very common element in Sequester rounds that basically when you know somebody is going to be voted out, you go to them and you try to convince them, hey, this is the person that's been really screwing you over, so you should go ahead and pick them for the battle match. And don't even look at my vote. I mean, I'm with you, so just this person. Just remember Rachel. Rachel is the one that's going for you, and it was a little obvious, I thought.
And Spencer was was really not here for any of it. I mean, he got fired up at that moment, but it was like anything that they were saying to him wasn't really like going through because he was just getting so angry. He was like, well, I don't know why anyone would vote for me, because if I'm the one that's voted in, like I'm obviously going to pick somebody I know I can beat, and then that's that. And of course, that leads into what's going on over with. He comes over to talk to Shireen and Rachel about that. Shireen doesn't take that very well, as I would not either. The way that he comes over to be like specifically like talking to the people that were over there, being like, if I'm the one voted in, I'm taking somebody that I know I can beat. And they're like, what are you trying to say? Like, what do you think?
He actually said in a physical competition or physical elimination.
That was the kicker, that he was trying
to. And I think
like,
that was what made like Shireen be like, excuse me, because it's basically saying like he's basically bullying them and saying like, yeah, you guys are the two people I'd be choosing from because I think that you are physically weaker than I am, and so I would be offended by that for sure.
Which I loved Shireen's vote later when she was like, all 6'4" of you voting for Spencer.
Yeah, well, it's like wrong audience, man. Like you think that you're going to intimidate Shireen and Rachel, like of all people? Like these are the two people who I think will take the least to threat. Like even Katie will take a threat better than Shireen and Rachel. They're not going to cow down to you. What are you thinking?
Yeah. You need to go after the people who are genuinely like I don't know, maybe somebody with like a reputation they're trying to uphold, like somebody that's like
Brent. Threaten Brent.
Sure.
We know that Brent kowtows to threats.
Yeah. It didn't work. It wasn't really going to, but it did create a very compelling story for this second part of the episode here, as Spencer thinks it's him, going all the way to when the votes are about to be revealed, or the person's about to be revealed. He's got the plan. He knows what he's doing. He knows whose votes he's going to say. And then he's like, what? It's not me.
I was shocked too, actually.
I was expecting Natalie, to be honest, because I knew that she was the alternative, and I knew that like so many people were talking about throwing their votes. I was just like, I feel like it's going to be a Natalie accidentally situation, and it feels like that's what it was. I think there were probably a couple people that put their votes on Natalie that wanted Natalie out, but I think that there were more people that wanted Spencer out, but they were all trying to throw their votes elsewhere. And then we ultimately got a 5-4-3-0 vote, with Jacob as the 0. Not a single vote for Jacob, not even a thrown vote for Jacob. Kudos to Jacob for that.
Just, I mean, what do you even say about that, right? Like, it's just, it's surprising, and it's also not surprising. He's got tons of connections. All these people that had said that they didn't want him to go, they wanted to work with him. And at a certain point, it was like, okay, the votes are important. If Jacob is not somebody that people are talking about going, we got to make sure that we put our votes on the people that we do want to go. So, you know, him ultimately getting 0 votes, I guess, is not too surprising, but it's still just crazy. I mean, 2-time Sequester mini winner, social game off the charts, friends all over the house.
Well, I think that like when he's trying to, you know, be part of that scramble for votes, like there's a calmness about him that like it doesn't worry people. I think he handles being in the hot seat a little bit better than some of the other people, and that's probably why they just were like, well, he's handling being on the block pretty well, so let's just maybe focus on the people that are like just kind of erratic and moving around and trying to fix the vote.
And so Natalie gets a little bit blindsided here, and she is going to be the one eliminated with the voted out, not eliminated. And so now she has to choose 3 people to see their votes. She chooses Katie, Billy, and Marcelo. And I gotta say, I was expecting a Billy call out here. It seemed like a lot of the episode is focused around this sort of, you know, the rift that had formed between them. Billy kind of lied about her vote a little bit. And it felt like this is an easy pick. She's going to pick Billy after the great, you know, murder round as the killer. She might get called into this battle match, but instead she moves over to Katie. Marcelo, having voted Spencer, is off the hook, and so she calls out Katie. Katie tries to talk her way out of it again, but like you can't do it twice in a row.
Yeah, Natalie was pretty locked in on Katie from you know, once it was confirmed. Katie was like, I did vote for you. I was trying to throw my vote. Natalie was pretty much sold on taking Katie with her. Yeah, it was definitely worth a shot. What Katie was trying to say there, you know, it did seem, especially, you know, you knew that there was something between Billy and Natalie, potentially, you know, some uncomfortable something there. So worth a shot. It just it didn't happen. Billy probably, you know, would have been the second choice, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah, I was actually hoping that Billy was going in. Like, I don't want Billy to leave at all. I actually want, to watch her on this show for a lot longer, but I just wanted to see that drama. I wanted to see them battling against each other.
Yeah.
Yes. So I saw a tweet here from Natalie, because this was one of the big questions that I had when the votes were revealed. It turns out that Natalie was a vote for Rachel. So the vote was 5 on Natalie, 4 on Spencer, 3 on Rachel. So if Natalie had voted Spencer, it would have been a tie, 5-5-2. And then there would have been a revote. Now, Josh and Brendan were the other 2 votes on Rachel. So assuming that they end up swaying the vote one way or another, it did kind of feel like Brendan wouldn't have voted Spencer. I feel like she still probably would have been voted out on the revote. But still, my big question was like, why didn't you throw your vote on Spencer? I mean, he did that to you. Like, you got to kind of put your vote on the person that is the next most likely person to go. Her explanation for it on Twitter was that she felt like there were 2 likely scenarios after having been reassured that she was safe. The scenarios where everyone votes for Spencer, but he has an LOS. And in that case, she needs to make sure there are votes on somebody else as the second most voted for person. Or everyone is so afraid to battle Spencer that they throw votes on somebody like Rachel, hoping that she is the least likely to go home. And then by her putting votes on Rachel, Rachel again is going to get more votes than her. Unfortunately for Natalie, more people threw votes on Natalie than on Rachel, which I will say I did expect more thrown votes on Rachel, because I would assume that if you want to really throw your vote, if you think Spencer has the votes to go, Natalie is the second most, you put your votes on Jacob or Rachel. I mean, that's the easiest thrown vote, right? I think the problem was that there were a couple people that kind of didn't want Spencer to go and wouldn't have minded Natalie leaving. So I don't hate that explanation. I think that it was at least thought out. It wasn't just that, like, I don't know, I just put my vote somewhere. But I still feel like, look, I think you got to just put your vote on Spencer most of the time here.
After the rounds, are they allowed to talk about how they voted or use like how they voted as strategy, or is it something that's
in the next round? I'm sure,
yeah,
they can probably question.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't have to be honest.
Yeah. I'm just curious if they could use it as strategy or not, or if it's like a rule of a no.
I would imagine, like, as long as your vote isn't called out in the battle match portion, I think you're allowed to lie about it all you want.
Look, I mean, Sequester is a game where there are rounds where somebody might go home because they have the most even number of votes. That's always the round that sticks out to me. Is like, how the hell do you possibly try to make that work? And I'm sure that, people who have played many times with that round or just played and studied the game can like tell you, work together, get this many people in a room, blah, blah, blah. But it's just this specific game, the twists that are involved and the amount of like the fact that there are 4 people on the block and LOSs and all this and that. It's hard. It's hard to, know for sure where all the votes are going, and people are lying. People are throwing votes. So I don't envy them, but I don't know. Again, that's why I don't play.
And I like Natalie's explanation for this vote. I love, because it's again a situation where like this cast is set up in a way where every corner of the game is going to have some kind of well thought out plan behind it. And I don't think this is a bad move. I think this is a calculated risk. And if it pays off, if it works out the way that she thinks it might, then it's brilliant, because she throws her vote in a non-conventional way. And if Rachel did have more thrown votes on her and Rachel ended up being the one eliminated, like, Natalie looks like a genius. If Spencer does have an LOS and he plays it, and Rachel is the second most over her because she cast her vote there because she was smart enough to anticipate it, again, she's a genius. So I don't mind it, although it did seem to cost her here, but not for good, because she picks Katie for the battle match and she's going to head into this battle match. Katie, in her pre-game interview with me, told me, look, I'm fine with battle matches, just don't give me one that involves aiming.
She said that?
Yeah. Not good with the aiming.
Well, the one thing that I wish that she did was just change up her strategy. She kept on doing like the overhand kind of pitch and missing. Like maybe she just tried to lob it up and see if that might have worked a little bit better. I just wish that she switched it up when she realized that it wasn't working.
That's crazy. Yeah, it seems like the kind of thing when you're watching, it's like that's so easy. Like you just throw it. If you don't throw it far enough, throw it farther the next time. But with the pressure
Maybe
added on,
Yeah, ping pong balls are very light.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Maybe it's really light.
Yep.
I was
That's
like,
the
come on,
problem.
everybody's played their fair share of Pong, whether you're drinking or not.
Yeah, well,
I
this
mean,
seemed like much longer distance than like a ping pong table or whatever, right? Like, and it's outside, so there's wind happening. So you probably really have to like chuck the thing in order to get it over there.
They were calling it a puck, though. So was it like one of those half pucks that are like hollow inside?
Oh, was it a puck? Or no, weren't they just
no,
moving
the puck was on the table.
Yeah.
That was when they were
okay,
sliding the puck
never
back
mind.
and forth.
I
They
thought it
weren't
was the
throwing the puck.
LOS, but so it's an LOS.
Well, the
puck?
LOS is a puck, right?
The LOS is a puck. Yeah, it's like a little ring light essentially that is in the shape of like a hockey puck.
Okay, fine. So you think I don't remember looking at the actual thing. Ping pong balls are really light and they're really hard to aim with.
I imagine a Sequester budget is spent on hundreds of dollars worth of ping pong balls before they go out there. I'm expecting
and plastic spoons.
Yes, I'm expecting to see the have to blow up on the table challenge, which makes me feel out of breath watching at some point this season. A lot of ping pong balls.
Yeah. I mean, Natalie just like once she got into it, she was just nailing them. She got that top hole so fast. Like, I think I would imagine that when Audrey built this challenge, she was expecting it to last longer, because I would imagine that most people trying to get that top hole would be trying for it forever, because there's no backboard like the other ones. And it's at the top, so it's like the most amount of force that you need to use. But she just like nailed it. Like I feel like it was her first try, at least from what we saw. And you know, I thought it was over when she nailed the top spot, and it basically was. But that's gonna be it for Katie, just like that.
Once that puck got moving, it was hard to stop Natalie, slow her down, and yeah, Katie's gone. I am sad about. I think everybody's sad about it. Katie's a big character, a big player. Is not somebody that seemed to be afraid to make a move in the game, play hard. We saw her and Marcelo planning and plotting earlier, and it's like, oh, this could be something. It was sad to lose a big player like this early on episode 2 here, but there's a lot of good players left in the house. Katie was very confident that she will be winning the battle back, to get back in. So, going in with that kind of confidence, being fired up, I did love the line she had at the end. They're gonna have to find somebody else to target because it's getting really effing old coming after me.
See, my first thought was like, now they're gonna know it's her.
Yeah, if they heard. No, that place is so big. This must be like far from the house. You see the drone shots? They're on like another mile away from the house. But it was a good line there. Sad to see her go. I'm sure once sooner or later we're going to get some kind of clip from inside that house, and I feel like we'll still get some fun there. So that's the beauty of this. You don't see that on other shows, to see like how the people that are eliminated are handling things, and I feel like that was a bright spot of season 3. I enjoyed any time we went there. So.
She was my number 1 draft pick. I was like, really? Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting her game to go this way. I do think a lot of it is like being able to adapt in the live reality version of this game. I was noticing last week, like people were able, in the Sequester mini, people can just like lock down their votes. Okay, we're good. And the round's over and it's done and you get to start again. And I think that the length of time that they have between things, I think that they're learning how to kind of, operate in this new world. And I think that she just didn't assimilate quickly enough, I think.
Yeah. So with Katie gone, I do think this could lead to a shakeup here. Especially if Natalie's going to go to the Room of Fortune and, win an LOS or a power or something, then, she can probably link up with Josh at that point. Shared secret, bonding them together. They're both on the outs. They've both been voted out. She still probably has a connection to Spencer now, having both been on the outs. Like, hey, I know you voted for me, but it doesn't matter. With Spencer, they can maybe try and pull in like Brent or Brendan, maybe a little bit. With Katie gone, it kind of leaves the door open to potentially target one of the people in that big group. And I'm not sure where Shireen stands at this point. It seems like she's with like Rachel and Muna, but I don't think she'd be opposed to working with Josh and them either to take a shot at somebody that she doesn't have a connection with, like Marcelo, who hates Shireen.
What was that about?
Yeah.
What was that? Like, what? I was baffled. I was like, did he just say I hate Shireen? I was like, I mean, I get, you don't vibe with someone. We got the vibes going on. We don't like, you don't want to play with her. But he was just like, he said it with his whole chest. He was like, I hate Shireen. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hates Shireen. I don't know how
maybe there's a reason.
I don't know, like I don't know how you hate Shireen personally.
She's trying to like open up with everybody, like let people in, like connect. Like she's trying to play the game, like it does seem like she plays with her heart, but that's not something that should be so hard to connect with. Like sit down, talk, be genuine. Like that's social game to a T. And if people aren't willing to, I guess, go there with her and just write her off as somebody that is not the easiest person to connect with, and that's on you, because at a certain point, a twist is going to come along where you're going to be screwed. Like it's funny to me that Katie's out now. Katie and Spencer had the a bit of a storyline going into the season, and now of course it's going to be over. But Spencer is getting no time off now because he still has somebody that's potentially to be worried about. So
I think he's probably saying that he hates her is because like he plays this whole like I'm sneaky, I'm gonna make big moves and like kind of be this like just one of those rat kind of players that make these big moves in the end. And I think that her wanting him to open up and like be real, I think that the mask that he's playing would have to be revealed, and I think that he's not comfortable with being like an honest and open kind of player, and so she's asking him that of him, and I don't think he wants that.
Yeah, so this is interesting to me because this could be the feud that ends up sort of cracking open this whole game. Because if Marcelo and Shireen end up coming after each other, and we also saw that Katie threw Marcelo under the bus to Natalie. So if Natalie has a connection to Josh, who has a connection to Shireen, and there's some anti-Marcelo, sentiment there, then we could see some infighting. And if Shireen is connected to Muna and Marcelo is connected to Jacob, that could get really messy really quick, especially depending on what the twist is for the next round. So, like I said, I could really see this game just like cracking open from this point, and I'm very interested to see where it goes.
Chantele, you made a comment about the rat or something. I don't know if we were.
Oh yes, the sound effects.
They've been doing I really love the production value this season because like they're doing a lot. I love it.
That was fun.
So
after Brent had spent all that time with his side of being on the inside of the door, and then he walks in on Muna talking with I think Spencer, right? And then we get the rat noise.
I'm just excited to have a new sound drop anytime I introduce Brent on the podcast.
Oh, on soundboard.
Just a little mouse sound or rat sound.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that from him, but like I said, he's supposed to be on the other side of the door. But that was fun. And what else? I feel like there was something else with Muna. Muna was maybe.
Well, Muna and Spencer had a couple moments where Spencer.
That's what.
Yeah. So Spencer was like, "Hey, do I have any shot?" And she's like, look, I can't vote out Jacob. And he was like, all right. And I can't vote out Rachel. He's like, all right, you're voting me out then. And he gives this whole Captain America speech about hey, look. And it's similar to the one Natalie had like in the confessional, except like a little more pointed, right? And he's like, look, I came out here just like anyone else, and I'm not getting a chance to play this game because I don't know anyone. And it gets to Muna, but then they have a second conversation, and she's like, okay, look. He's like, okay, if you can't vote Rachel, you can't vote Jacob, can you vote Natalie for me? She's like, yeah, the thing about that though is that Natalie's from Minnesota.
Yeah.
I know she'll pull me in.
It's like,
what? People from the same state? Jeez.
It's like, okay. So you're just voting for me, right? Like that's what's happening. Like it's like that is not a real reason, right?
Yeah, like you usually hear the kind of thing of people who say like, I don't think the votes are there, so that's why I'm not voting. But like just coming up with a reason for why she couldn't vote for each individual person. Spencer was like, why am I wasting my time talking to you? Like there are so many other people in the house, and you're shutting me out, saying it's like it's not happening. So like he was like, respectfully, let me go talk to them, and you do what you're up to. Do whatever you're doing. It's not making it work.
And that's the thing too, where like I'm sure that Muna was being genuine. I actually think that was a genuine reason that she wasn't voting for Natalie, not because like, oh, I can't vote for a fellow Minnesotan, but because that animal, but because we bond. I'm assuming what she meant was we bonded over being from Minnesota. We had that bond. She's going to feel really personally hurt if I vote her out. So I just feel like the way she communicated that was not like the best way, because I think all you need to say is I just really bonded with her, and I think she's going to be really hurt if I vote her out, and she's going to pull me into a battle match. I'm really worried about that. I'm sorry. When she says like, look, she's from Minnesota, so it's like, what?
And Spencer's already fed up at this point, right? He's like annoyed with all these different people coming to him about this and that, Shireen, whoever. So he wasn't having much of that.
Mm-hmm. And that was the thing too. Like people kept saying things to Spencer, but he was so worked up that he would like heard the first bit of it and then like didn't hear the rest of it. That's what happened when like Brent and Brendan came up to him, and I think that's kind of what happened with like the second Muna says, "Well, she's from Minnesota." He's like, his mind is blown, and so he doesn't really hear the part where he's, so I'm worried she's going to drag me into a battle match or whatever. And so he's just running around. That was funny though, the Minnesota thing, because I had the same thought in the moment. Like, why does she keep saying she's from Minnesota? What does that even mean?
Means a lot. I mean, if I was from Minnesota, I wouldn't vote my fellow Minnesotians out either.
I wouldn't actually, to be fair. So it's a valid reason, but she could have maybe framed it in a little way.
If I was from Minnesota, I would vote out somebody else from Minnesota in a heartbeat, guys. Just don't even think about, I'm not working with them. I don't know what you're talking about.
True.
Get a Minnesota expert to come in on the podcast next week or call in.
Yeah.
Tell us more about your home state.
Kristen in the chat. They're from the mini community.
Yeah.
Oh, mini Minnesotas.
Minnesota. Exactly. There we go. Good job, Kristen.
Yeah. All right. So
overall, though, we haven't talked much about Muna. Muna, she wasn't like in any danger tonight. She was kind of sitting back. I was noticing a lot of Muna, a lot of Brendan, and a little bit of Jacob as well. Mm-hmm. Seem to be like the key players that get to do the, let me explain my game in the confessional. Like, let me explain what I'm seeing. Like, they not only get to describe what's going on in the house, they get to kind of describe it from their perspective. And I'm not trying to be all edgy or anything like that, but I think that's a good sign for them that we're seeing maybe it is a little edgy. We're seeing from them, we're hearing their perspective, and it makes me feel better about them going forward, that like they are aware of what's going on at all times, and these are people that right off the bat I would have felt good about. So just to continue seeing here in episode 2 that things have been that they're still aware of a lot of things. It's been good.
There was a Muna moment that I thought was really funny when she was trying to figure out the killer with Rachel. I think she proposes that it might be Marcelo because Marcelo is really close to Jacob, and by putting up Jacob, he would be trying to throw people off the scent. And Rachel was like, I thought they weren't that close. And like you can see the wheels turning in Muna's head. She's like, oh crap. Well, I mean, I'm sure they're not that close. I mean, because he was like, I thought Jacob said he was using Marcelo. He's like, well, I'm sure he is. I'm sure they're not actually that too. I was like, it's just one of those moments where you're like, oh.
When Natalie also tried to pitch right to Muna or in front of Muna, and Brendan was like, do you see who you're talking to? You're pitching for Jacob to get votes? Muna's right here. What are you talking about? Like, it's not a hidden relationship. I think
know your audience.
Yep.
So.
All right. So heading into the next episode, we're gonna see Natalie return and see how it goes. Overall, good episode. I thought like this twist not as good as the first round. A little confusing up front, but I do feel like as it played out, it was fine. I would imagine that a lot of people saw the explanation and they were like, huh? But then when they watched it, they were like, oh, okay. That's that's my detailed explanation of how the audience definitely responded.
Okay.
Wait, could you just make me understand that the part that I don't understand is if Rachel caught the killer, like what happens then?
So if she catches the killer, the kill list stops. So if she caught the killer in the first round, then it would have been her. It would have been Billy and Natalie up for elimination. Spencer would have been off the hook. If she had caught the killer in the next round, it would have been Natalie, Spencer, and Billy. And then if she had caught the killer in the fourth round, it would have been Natalie, Spencer, Jacob, and Billy. So that's how it would have worked. Also, I think another bit from this that didn't end up being relevant is that if Natalie had chosen Billy for the battle match, Billy had actually won immunity for herself that round by getting away with it as the killer. So she would have been exposed as the killer, but she would have been safe from the battle match.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot about that.
Would have been a big moment to get all the confessionals and everything from anybody that was like, oh my God, Billy, had no idea, because we're not going to get that, right? Unless Billy's in the final two or just starts to tell people at any point, but I don't think that's going to happen. So we're not going to get those reactions until I guess like exit interviews later, or well, maybe in this one as well.
and that's another thing I've seen a lot of people asking. Could Billy have put Rachel on her kill list? And I believe the answer is no.
She couldn't have.
I believe what would have happened is if she had tried to put Rachel on the kill list, it would have been like, nope, sorry, you can't actually put that person on the list. They are the detective, I would imagine, which is kind of, again, more incentive for Rachel to expose the fact that she's the detective, because there's actually decent odds that the killer already knows who the detective is. And so if the killer is one of the few people who actually knows who you are, then they have even greater influence over you than because she was worried that if the killer knew who she was, then she would have been, the killer would have been like trying to manipulate her. But because nobody knew except for potentially the killer, that like the killer could have much more successfully been in her ear, like, yeah, I don't even know who the detective is, but here's who I think. So yeah, it's again more incentive to out yourself, I think.
Yeah. Good round. It was a good round. Some fun stuff all across the episode, and I don't know, Billy was just a star in the confessionals. Every time that a round ended and Billy was the one, or Billy was not anywhere near being the one caught, it was a lot of fun. She was just like, I'm not even gonna try, but she was having a lot of fun in there. It was good.
No, I definitely loved watching Billy this episode, and especially because she got away with it. I was kind of expecting maybe them figuring it out or something like that, maybe in the final round. But the fact that they didn't, I was really happy about that, and I was impressed by her acting skills. They were really good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I believe that's what we've got for you from this episode. But before we go away and before we fully wrap up, I did speak with Katie earlier today, and we're gonna go ahead and watch the exit interview that I did with Katie, and then we'll do a final wrap up at the end. But if for whatever reason, if you're a mean person and you just want to bounce out now because you don't care what Katie has to say, and because you're a bad person, you can find me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran, or on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. Make sure you tune in next week for more Sequester coverage. Matt, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Matt Liguori. If you want to check out any other podcasts that I've been up to, feel free. We got the challenge coming back on Wednesday. Brian Scally and I will be covering that over on the Dom and Colin podcast for another season. So check that out. I'm excited for the season. And Sequester Mini alumni winner Aman Adwin and I are still doing our Glee podcast, The Choir Room. So you can check that out as well. But yeah, Twitter at Matt Liguori.
And Chantele?
and if you're looking for me on Twitter, it's going to be at Shan____Fran. And I do pretty much daily. I'm going to be doing something on my own YouTube channel, Reality Realness with 3 S's, where we've been talking about Sequester with JoJo, who's a Sequester super fan and player. We'll definitely be talking about the challenge and obviously the Bachelorette's in there too. So come hang out with us. We go live and we talk to the chat. It's fun.
All right. Well, let's pull up the interview that is hopefully going to be there eventually when I find the proper one for it. There it is. This is me talking to Katie. There's 2 me's here right now.
There you are.
Don't get
Right
too weirded
there.
out by it.
There.
And we'll, if there's something interesting, we'll talk over it too. We'll talk about it as it goes. But here we go. Let's hear my interview with Katie. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Sequester Season 4 exit interview. I am here with Katie. How you doing, Katie?
Oh, I'm great. How are you?
Doing well. Not super happy to be talking to you so soon.
Yeah, I wasn't really hoping to be here this soon, but here we are, and it's fine. We're doing great. I'm still proud of the game I played. I think I played big and bold, and I don't think people will forget me, even if I was only here at this point.
It's very true. I mean, in 2 rounds, you were twice the first pick for the battle match.
Yeah, they're going to have to pick someone new now, which will be exciting. I'm not super surprised by that, just because I knew with my style of gameplay that it makes it, it's not a secret who I'm going for, at least in the beginning. So I knew I would be getting some blood on my hands. I was just kind of hoping they wouldn't ask to see my vote all the time.
Yeah. I mean, that it's not great, not super helpful. You also, and I saw you tweeted this out, that you had told me prior to the game, just like you're down for any battle match, just not one that involves aiming.
Yeah, I mean, at least I'm self-aware that this would be my weakness. That's the thing. I knew if there was a battle match with aim, I wasn't going to be good at it. I manifested it that was what I got. And it was a tough challenge. Like, having to get up from row to row was tricky, just because I kept sinking them in the bottom row. But if you don't make it in the next row, then you can't move on. And Natalie getting that top one, as soon as she sunk that, I was like, oh, it's over for me. There's no chance I'm coming back, because I'm struggling so hard to get the second row, that the fact that she got the top that quickly, I was like, it's over. It's fine. We are down, but not out.
Mm-hmm. So in that round, it was between Natalie, Jacob, Spencer, and Rachel. You told, I believe, Rachel that you were throwing your vote, but not on her. You told Natalie that you were throwing your vote, kind of implying that it wasn't going to be on her. You end up throwing your vote onto Natalie. What went into that decision?
So when I looked at the people who were up there, I knew that I wanted to save Spencer, because I felt like that was someone who had my back, and I wasn't going to get rid of Jacob. I felt like Jacob was someone I was working with. And then I felt as if I had more of a relationship with Rachel at that point than I did with Natalie. So when I saw those 4 up there, it just kind of made sense for me to go after Natalie. And I knew everyone else wanted to go after Spencer, but that wasn't good for my game. So it's been nice to see that, he did really have my back last round. So now I can have his back this round. And so whenever people were like, well, I can't vote out Spencer, I was like, I think it would be a great idea to throw your vote on Natalie, because she's super safe. So I knew it was going to be tough to get the votes on Natalie. But when I looked at those 4 people, she was the one who I felt like I had the least of a game relationship with. And I knew I couldn't vote for Spencer. Spencer made it very clear to me that if my vote ended up anywhere besides Natalie, I was going to go. So if he would have revealed my vote, and I said, hey, I threw it on Rachel, I'm still getting pulled into that battle match, because he feels like I betrayed him.
So like, were you surprised when Natalie picked you for the battle match? Because it was a little surprising, right?
It was definitely a bit of a surprise to see. Like I said, I had a feeling if she revealed my vote and she knew that I voted for her, it was going to be tough to get out of it because I didn't exactly tell her where I was throwing. So I just
A little audio glitch there.
I don't know. I wasn't shocked, but I was just hoping she wouldn't choose my vote, especially when I heard that Billy threw a vote on Natalie as well. And I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure that Billy told Natalie she was voting out Spencer and she didn't. So I was hoping to pivot it that way. But Billy was the killer, so it wouldn't have made a difference either way. I was going into that battle match, no matter which way I navigated this round, apparently.
Well, why do you think she chose you of all the potential people that could have voted for her?
I think Natalie's always been known to be the kind of person who wants to go after big players. In the mini games that I've watched her play, she likes to go after big dynamic players just because she has a tendency to play a bit more under the radar so that when she gets the opportunity, she wants to take a big shot. And I have a lot of respect for that kind of gameplay. That's the kind of person that I expect to get me out of the game. Someone who's like, all right, like this is the chance to make a move. I think she felt hurt that I voted for her. And, you know, that's the thing. I think she saw that it was a chance to make a big move and she made it. And I think people are going to be very shocked when I don't run out of that barn tomorrow.
Yeah. So we saw that Jacob was vulnerable here, got 0 votes. And it seems, you know, watching the first couple episodes here, that Jacob is like the Cody Calafiore of this season at the moment. Just very set up, with nobody even thinking about coming for him. From my position, it doesn't look like you're in a great spot within that structure, even if you stay here. What was your thought process?
So I honestly thought I was, and this is where Jacob's good at this game, I thought I was closer to Jacob than I was. I felt like I had formed a good bond with Marcelo. I felt like Moon is the type of player where like we play very similarly, where we're like strong, we're aggressive, we're in the front players. So I felt like Muna, just like I could recognize Moon as someone I need in this game, I felt like Muna could recognize that someone that could really benefit my game. So I felt like I knew that I wasn't anyone's like ride or die. Like I knew that I needed to take out Jacob at some point. Like when I was looking at that dynamic, it wasn't now that I needed Jacob out, but I did need him out at some point to free up Muna, to free up Marcelo. But yeah, it was, I trusted Jacob more than I should have. And that surprised me watching back. That was so expendable to him because I really thought that like, he was someone in this game that it made sense for us to need to work together because we're both gonna be threats on people's lists.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me about this this Brent feud that happened. You helped get him into exile. He then votes for you. There's a little bit of blood there, and then he approaches you with this marriage of necessity. Tell me about this.
So I feel like the big thing about the Brent situation is I was so blindsided when he said my name. I was not expecting that whatsoever, just because he ran around that round grabbing my hand saying, if you're in there, no matter what, Katie, no matter what, like getting really close, because that's what he does. He grabs everyone's hands and he gets really close. He said, no matter what, I will not vote for you if you're in there. And I don't know if telling me beforehand would have been smart, who knows, but I was so blindsided in that moment when he said my name, because I was like, that makes no sense to me. And then that time in the dining room is the first chance I get to talk to Brent after he blindsides me. Like that is the first opportunity we see each other from the moment that he blindsides me to, you know, the next round. So, and that's why I was still like fired up about it. And when he comes to me, he's like, it's a marriage of necessity. Even if you don't vote me out, I'll pull you in with me. I'm like, this seems like not a good deal for Team Katie. I don't know why this, that's the thing. If I actively vote you out, if I'm actively working to get you out, like, yes, pull me in to a battle match by all means. I'm totally here for that. But when he's sitting there saying, hey, no matter what, if I go, you're coming in with me. I was like, well, that doesn't seem fair because people are going to want to get rid of you soon. Like, I feel like your number's coming up and I don't know if I want to go into a battle match. So smooth things over. We don't want other people to know, obviously, that this is the threat, because then Brent becomes a 0 risk vote for them. Mm-hmm. No risk to vote Brent if he's openly saying, hey, we're taking Katie out. So it's under the bridge. It's fine. It's no big deal. But I knew if I at any point had safety, I was going to burn Brent's game to the ground. He was gonna be like marriage of necessity, and I'd be like, Brent, you want to pull me in? This is a divorce. Here's my power. Have fun. Pick someone else. Like, oh.
I've already talked to all the lawyers. You're done.
Exactly. So it was tense. Who knows if the game continues, how our relationship would have ended, just because I can recognize so much that Brent and I are the types of players who need each other in this game, because we're loud, we're chaotic, we have lots to say, and that makes us very exciting and very enticing to pull into battle matches, apparently. But now they have to pick someone new.
Yeah. See, I felt like when Brent was talking to Josh, explaining his, I felt like he should have just been like, "Look, you threatened me. I did what you said so that you wouldn't pull me in." And like explain, it's like he's explaining it so that you're not sitting on it all night wondering why. He's like, "Oh, I love you, Josh. I wanted you to stay." I felt like that was maybe the better play, but he was like, "Nah. I had to do everything in my power to make sure he didn't pull me in."
Which is fair, because had Brent said that and had Jay West not given the chance for me to throw the target on him, I probably would have continued to pivot and been like, okay, but Brent just said the only reason he didn't vote for me is because, like, I probably would have been in like fight or flight until it's the point for me, until it's the point that you are walking up, standing next to the person there. I'm going to keep fighting until you're like, no, it's you. Stop. I'm going to keep arguing with you just in hopes. And I knew there was no chance they let me do that 2 times in a row. No way they let that happen. That would be ridiculous if they let me argue my way out 2 times in a row.
Yeah. So after you lose the battle match, you tell Natalie, watch out for Marcelo. Why throw Marcelo under the bus there?
Well, for me, when Marcelo's vote was revealed, and he said he voted for Spencer, I was really confused by that, just because he was one of the people in my head that I thought, okay, this is someone who's voting out Natalie. Because me and him had that whole conversation where he very promptly was like, yeah, no, Natalie's the one that's got to go. And like, he talked to me about how he thinks Spencer should work with us. So I was very surprised. And I would always, if I come back in the game, I would rather go back in with a friend than an enemy. So I don't think, coming in Natalie and being like, you know what, your game's over, you're out of this. I didn't think that was going to be productive. If I give her a tidbit of information for someone who I think betrayed me and lied to me, then that's someone that she can work after at this point. That's someone she knows she can't trust. And if I get back in the game, she knows, okay, Katie was looking out for me back then. Maybe we can be a number now.
All right. And any final thought? Anything else that you think was interesting that might be worth mentioning?
Nothing. It was such an incredible experience. I'm glad for the rounds that we've seen so far that I was able to be such a big part of them. And I think it's going to be really exciting for everyone to see the rest of the season and see how spicy it gets, because it only is going to get better.
Oh boy. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Taran. I appreciate it.
All right. That was Katie.
Yeah, about what I would have expected with most of the answers there. I'm glad you had touched on some of the stuff with Brent, with the marriage of it all. The divorce would have been incoming. I think, yeah, that would have made sense. And the way that she was talking about how, we're 2 types of players, or we're almost the same type of player. We kind of need each other. That we always hear people recognize that kind of thing after the fact, but it's just really hard to get that player, like the person that like those 2 people in the game, like to actually say, yes, we need to stop whatever we're doing and actually work together. It's hard.
The whole time though I was watching, I kept on thinking it was real and happening live. So I'm like, oh no, I'm not interjecting here. Like I got to like, no, I'm watching. It was really funny.
Yes, this was recorded earlier today. So we had some people asking that in the chat. But yeah, it was interesting talking to her. I did think it was interesting that she threw Marcelo under the bus. But she's trying to bond with Natalie in the hopes that she can come back and work with Natalie. I definitely I agreed with her when she said that her and Brent needed to work together. I think that's true. I think that they do kind of need each other in the game, and it'll be interesting to see where Brent goes from here. You know, losing Katie, ostensibly a good thing for Brent, considering that they were not going to work with each other. But definitely interesting to see where this might go.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the attitude she had. You know, anytime that someone can be like, "Yeah, the rest of the season's still gonna be great. Don't worry." Like, not sounding bitter or anything like that. So, but I definitely enjoyed her. If there's a returning player again in the future, would not mind seeing her get another shot in there at the live version. I know she's played a handful of minis.
You think she's not bitter because she does the battle back, comes in and wins?
Could be.
Ooh, yes! I still get my draft pick.
All
That's
right.
what we're rooting for.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us this week. Again, we will be back next week. If you want to watch the episodes live with me on Twitch, you can. You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong, live at 9 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. I will be doing a watch party. We'll hang out, watch it together, react together, and prior to that, I will be streaming some Among Us with Puya and the gang. So it's a fun Sunday around those Twitch parts. So make sure you check it out. But if not, you will see us back again next week, Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, to talk about episode 3 of Sequester season 4. So thank you guys so much for joining us.
Whoop, whoop.
We'll see you next time.